What's up everyone, how are you LL? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto x Diane 7 Deadly Sins Harem? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. You grow too much like your uncle and Yahiko every single day. A soft, delicate voice spoke the rainy atmosphere of a megacure. A pair of elegant rippled grayish-purple eyes opened themselves, staring out across the rainy village from his perch on a statue's tongue. Slowly, the owner turned his head to stare at the women that had interrupted his peace. Conan, the angel of aim. She studied him with a small smile gracing her face at the resemblance of the two men that she had known and trusted almost farther back than she could truly remember. The blue-haired woman eyed him, taking in his slightly strange appearance. The boy still held blonde hair, but his once charming blue eyes had changed into the beautiful elegance of the Rinnegan. Wrapped around his forehead and keeping his bangs out of his eyes was an aim headband, complete with a scratch line heading Trophed. The blonde wore a black sleeveless vest on over his chest, with lightweight armor designed into it. The inside of the vest was lined red, with a single red line traveling down the front of his vest. Printed heavily on the front of the vest, and in a much smaller vision on his back were red, white-lined clouds. The Rinnegan user wore black arm guards covered his forearms and stretched upwards to reach his upper biceps. Strapped on over his elbows were flexible Anbu elbow pads that branched out at the tops and bottoms. Pulled on over the forearms were Anbu guards, which held serrated edges so that they could be used as a weapon in their own rights. Hidden behind these guards, and triggered with buttons on them, were short hidden blades coated in a poison given to the boy by Sasori of the Red Sands. On his hands he wore a pair of fingerless black gloves with silver plates. At one point a symbol had rested upon them, but they had long since been scratched away by the boy's hidden blades. The blonde wore black aim Junin-styled pants as they allowed more hidden concealment for weapons instead of the Anbu-styled ones. Strapped to either thigh were a pair of weapon holsters. The pants were taped off around his ankles with a pair of black military combat boots resting over them. The boots held silver plates on the toes and soles, to add as much damage to his attacks as he possibly could. Perhaps, but this is where I feel most at peace. Sitting here, no sounds but the rain. No anger, no hate, no war. And, it helps me train my senses. After all, it was my fault that one Ronin almost made it into the village without anyone's knowledge. I guess I'm more of a frontline fighter instead of a censor. Nevertheless, you would not interrupt me without reason. Does Uncle wish to see me? Naruto questioned as Conan nodded slowly in confirmation. Hi, he does. But not right now. He asked me to relay a message to you however. The Chunin exams are coming up and Nagato wishes for your team to participate. However, you are slightly weakened due to the fact that you lost one of your paths of, what do you call it? Sin? He wants to see you in an hour for a debriefing. He wants to know how you're faring without him. The blue-haired woman replied as Naruto's head slowly turned to stare out across of the village again, his hand scratching the t-shirt that hid a single chakra receiver underneath. Come now, Conan, do you truly believe that I will need, not only all of my own skills, but those of all 6 of my paths as well? Even if it is Konoha, the strongest village, they've let their standards slip. I've even heard that they allowed an A- rank mission to slip through as AC rank. If that's a mistake their Hokage made, I am not concerned with their genin. Conan stared at the young Rinnegan wielder, her eyebrows knitting together in frustration. I agree. You will more than likely not even require but 2 paths. But it is always better safe than sorry, Naruto. The blonde-haired boy nodded as he stared out across his village, the one he truly considered his homeland. Noticing that the blonde still held his hand over his chakra receiver, the blonde-haired woman could not withhold the single question that plagued her mind. Did it hurt? The rippled eyes of the young man before her returned their attention to the woman, silently asking for her to elaborate. I mean, when you lost your path. Nagato has yet to lose one, so he says he wouldn't know. The boy's enchanting eyes stared at her for a long time, before his mouth finally opened again. No, it didn't hurt me, but it was surreal to watch my path being destroyed. In hindsight, I should have had another path trail him. But I didn't and my paths of sin paid dearly for it. It was, the blonde-haired boy cut his sentence short as he tilted his head to the side, as the rain began to pour down around him harder, his eyes detecting the evident chakra. Uncle is ready for me now. Have a nice day, Conan. And heed your own advice if you stay out here, never be too careful. With those words spoken, the boy disappeared in a plume of smoke as Conan smiled as she jumped down to the place where the boy had sat seconds before, taking his place as guardian of aim. Nagato and Naruto. As the smoke within Nagato's hidden lair dispersed, two pairs of Rinnegan eyes stared into each other, reflecting the other's emotions and understandings. You called for me, uncle. Conan has already informed me that you wish to speak to me about how I am faring without my lost path. And that you wish to send me to Kanogakure for the Chunin exams. Naruto broke the comfortable silence that had always seemed to reign in between the two Uzumaki clan members. Correct. You grew careless, Naruto. And, as such, you lost your path. It was not your strongest, but it was also not your weakest path. I want to know how much damage this has caused you and your abilities. The elder man spoke and Naruto allowed his head to loll backwards. As he stared at the rocky ceiling of his uncle's lair, the blonde-haired gray-purple-eyed young man spoke. As you said, it was not my strongest. It caused enough damage to me that it's an incredibly hard blow that I can't get back up from. No, it's more of an annoyance that only had me off kilter for very few seconds. His response came out smooth, almost as if practiced. Nagato watched his nephew's face, Naruto's eyes remaining unblinking. Releasing a breath of annoyance, Nagato receded slight farther back into his mechanical walker. Good, then there is no reason to recall our plan. The Chunin exams begin in 5 days. I want you to go gather your team, and depart as soon as you can. You will reach the village with plenty of time, so go slowly, and should the opportunity present itself, replace your lost path. Also, multiple Jinchuriki will be present in the village. I will have Itachi and Kisame accompany you with the highest genjutsu that they can perform. Therefore, if one of the Jinchuriki wander away, attack, but stay covert. I understand, uncle. Naruto interrupted with a small smile adorning his lips. Believe me, I wouldn't pass an opportunity such as that up if it appears in front of me. I will have my team gather my supplies. When and where are we to meet Itachi and Kisame? The blonde boy questioned as Nagato nodded at his response. They are already waiting at the village gates. I will see you upon your return. Nagato spoke to his fellow Rinnegan user as the blonde-haired Uzumaki nodded slowly, turning on his heels as he began to walk out of Nagato's hidden lair. Naruto, one more thing. The redhead called as said 15-year-old glanced over his shoulder wearily. Good luck, Naruto. Naruto's Rinnegan eyes widened slightly before he slightly smiled with a nod. I don't need luck, but, thank you uncle. With those words, the younger of the two Uzumaki disappeared behind Nagato's red curtain, leaving the elder Rinnegan user by himself to ponder things once again. Naruto quickly made his way down the hidden tunnels that lead away from his uncle's hidden room. It wasn't long before the sunlight at the end of the tunnel became apparent. Two figures stood at the entrance, their arms crossed over their chests and their backs against the rocky walls. The first figure was a black-haired individual. Said hair framed the sides of its owner face, and allowed spiked outwards near the crown of his head. Wrapped around the start of his forehead, past his eyes and all the way down to his nose, the figure wore white medical bandages, seemingly blinding him. However, behind the bandages, a pair of Rinnegan eyes saw everything. The figure wore a black kimono-like top, which held a red and white cloud on the back of it. Wrapped around the black-haired figure's waist was a red sash, which held a slashed Megakure headband embroidered onto it. Attached to the back of the sash was a wakizashi sword, however, a leather-wrapped hilt more closely resembled a Chinese dao. The black-haired male wore black anbu-like pants with, much like Naruto's own, the ankles wrapped off. For shoes he wore a pair of ninja sandals. However, the toes and heels were closed to avoid having damage done to them. Hidden behind his kimono top, in the left side of his chest was a chakra receiver. This figure had once been known as Izuna Uchiha. The second figure wielded shoulder-length blue hair, that was cut off in an asymmetrical way. The male also wielded a pair of Rinnegan eyes, though his own were shielded from view by a slash-aim hiatate. He wore a monk-like robe that traveled down his chest and went to hand at the bottom of his thighs in the front and back. The left arm sleeve was short-sleeved, though the right traveled down to completely hide a bandaged arm. The right arm was decorated in red, white-lined clouds. A white sash tied off around the boy's waist, allowing a multitude of differently styled knives to dangle in their sheaths. Dangling from the back of the sash was a tri-bladed death claw used for those with wind manipulation. The figure wore a white pair of Jonin-styled pants. The pants, however, were not taped off and hung down around a pair of closed-off, black ninja sandals. Much like Izuna, he held a chakra receiver in the left side of his chest. The male had, once upon a time, been Sora, a pseudo-Jinchuriki to the nine-tailed fox and a former monk in training. Naruto looked at the two boys who held hidden Rinnegan eyes. Animal, human. Naruto spoke, nodding his head slightly, indicating to Sora and Izuna respectively. The two allowed a small bow to Naruto as the blonde-haired boy motioned for them to follow. Come, Itachi and Kisame still wait for us, and I do not want to prolong our trip to Konohagakure any longer than we must. With those words spoke, the Rinnegan holder and his two paths lurched from the ground into the few trees surrounding them, all almost impossible to keep watch of. It didn't take the team of three long to exit the small shelter of trees and enter the reigning village of Omegakure. With little effort, the three kept pace with the others, jumping and flipping elegantly over Naruto's beloved homeland. All too soon, they reached the village gates, all landing as silently as they possibly could, though their escorts were easily brought to their attention. What took you so long? The blue, shark-skinned man, perfectly dubbed Kisame, monster of the hidden mist spoke, his teeth pulling themselves into a fanged grin. I was actually beginning to think that you may have chickened on us. Right, Itachi? Naruto's eyes came to rest on Itachi, who wore an exact replica of Kisame's own black, red cloud-decorated cloak. Itachi's own elegant eyes came to rest on his shark-skinned partner with an emotionless look upon his face. It doesn't matter what we may have thought. He's here now, Kisame, which means that it's time for us to depart towards Konohagakure no Sato. The young black-haired man spoke, his emotionless voice meeting that of his face. You're such a spoilsport, Itachi. Kisame exclaimed as he and his raven-haired partner turned, allowing the team of three behind them a glance at Kisame's Samahata. Come on, brat. Itachi's not going to be happy until we get all of this mission completed and are back here. With those words, all five of the males lurched forwards, chakra being channeled into their feet as they rushed down a dirt path at breakneck paces. The five continued on for hours, never once breaking the silence as the terrain around them continued to change and evolve until they found themselves within a forest of Kusagakure. As they traveled through the branches of the trees, before Naruto came to an abrupt stop, his eyebrows furrowing. The two men that had been escorting Naruto stopped as well, glancing over their shoulder, wondering about the Rinnegan's strange behavior. What's the matter, Naruto? Are we being followed? Itachi questioned, knowing the boy's own eyes far succeeded his own in tracking and sensing another human being. Naruto shook his head in a negative fashion as a frown made its way upon his face. The blonde-haired Uzumaki lifted his right hand into the air, pointing in a certain direction of the forest. No, but there are a group of ninja that way. Otogakure and Sanagakure if I'm correct. They seem to be talking to each other. Not in a hostile fashion either, but more in plotting manner. The youngest Rinnegan user responded to the question, his companion's own eyebrows knitting themselves together at the information. It had become common knowledge to the members of Akatsuki that Orochimaru had formed his own unique village of Oto, a village that had quickly become a thorn in their sides. Stay right here, they're a short way ahead. If you hear my call, move forwards. The two nodded as Naruto lurched forwards ahead of the group, leaving his animal and human paths to remain behind with their escorts. True to his words, about 20 yards away from where they had been was a small group of ninja. 5 Otogakure ninja and 5 Sungakure. The blonde leaned forwards, listening to the group of ninja chatter back and forth between themselves. Are you sure everything is prepared for the invasion? After all, Lord Case Cage does not wish for any mishaps to happen. At the mention of the Case Cage, the Otogakure ninja seemed to become slightly amused, though they quickly hid it as the leader of the Sound Ninja opened his mouth in response. Trust me, Lord Orochimaru has made sure that everything is in place. The invasion is ready to be initiated and not a single snag has been found in the plan. Honestly, you people should learn to trust your partners more easily. Then again, having an alliance with a village such as Konoha could make anyone weary. The leader of the Oto ninja spoke, his voice smooth with the underlying tone of, "You can believe me." His eyes, however, told a different story. His eyes were full of spite, betrayal, and amusement. He, and the rest of the Otogakure ninja were playing Suna for the fools that they truthfully were. Naruto slowly lowered his index fingers to almost invisible buttons on his Anbu forearms guards before pressing them. From the guards his hidden blades sprouted silently, tinkering with them for a short moment, to make sure they were still tightly in place. Once he was satisfied with the workings, Naruto opened one of his weapon pouches, retrieving 3 poison-coated senbon needles from within. With practiced ease, Naruto released them, the needles piercing one of the Suna ninja in his neck silently. The victim stiffened as his eyes widened before he dropped to his knees, vomit escaping from his mouth. Katsu, one of the other Suna ninja, called as he turned to his suddenly sick comrade. What the hell's wrong with him? One of the Otogakure ninja questioned as he walked forwards. As he continued, he came too close to another Otogakure ninja, giving Naruto his perfect opportunity to strike. Leaping from the trees, Naruto slammed his hidden blades into the skulls of the 2 Otogakure ninja before ripping them from their embedding. Following this, Naruto used the force to roll away from the dying men as he ripped the blades out. As the Suna ninja that noticed his sickened friend turned to the sudden noise, Naruto lurched upwards from the ground, his right hidden blade easily slicing through the man's throat. The man stumbled backwards as blood flowed from his neck in a steady stream. The man continued backwards as the remaining ninja finally took notice of the blonde-haired Rinnegan user. The man tripped over his poisoned comrade, whom was now extremely pale with blood dribbling from the corners of his mouth, before falling to the ground, dead. What the hell? Where the fuck did you come from, you little bastard? One of the Otogakure ninja questioned as Naruto slowly slipped into a fighting stance. Oh, fucker, aren't you? Do the numbers, kid. You got 4 of us out of surprise, but it's still 6-1. You have the numbers game. But I have the power game. Naruto replied as the remaining 6 ninja growled in rage. That's it. A little bit closer now. Naruto thought to himself as he saw the rage in the ninja begin to boil over at the strikes at their pride. Why not attack me? You have the numbers. Come at me, fools. Naruto spoke, jabbing yet another strike at the Oto and Suna ninja's ego. As the blonde thought they would, the ninja rushed forwards in a fit of outrage. With a smirk, Naruto raised both of his hands into the air, facing the charging 6 ninja. Shinra. Tensai. The blonde called as an invisible force blasted his enemies away. True, he couldn't level a village in one shot as his uncle could. But he had enough force to severely injure an enemy ninja. And, as he planned, the ninja flew well backwards into the forest. One of the Otogakure ninjas smashed into a tree, shattering it and bringing the force down onto the man. The remaining 5 ninja released screams of pain as they slammed into each other, no doubt breaking bones. They were, still, quick to get back onto their feet. What the hell was that? One of the Suna ninja questioned through gritted teeth, though he received no response as he and his comrades were stared down by their opponent's rippled eyes. With a snarl, they once again rushed forwards, watching as their opponent did the same. An Otogakure ninja lurched forwards ahead of the rest with a heel kick that Naruto ducked underneath. With practiced ease, Naruto swept the man's remaining leg out from under him. Using the falling man's force, Naruto leapt onto his chest before kicking him into the air with a sickening crack. Kicking a Suna ninja in his face, sending him stumbling backwards, Naruto ducked and rolled to the side, avoiding a kunai swipe to his skull. The Otogakure ninja growled as one removed a senbon from his pocket, sending it sailing towards Naruto. Naruto's head tilted just slightly to the side, avoiding it as he heard a slight jingle from a bell attached to the end of it. Ha, now you're in my genjutsu, moron. The sound ninja called egotistically, though Naruto's rippled eyes continued to glare at the man, without emotion. The ninja's brow furrowed in confusion and fear. Why aren't you affected? That should have sent you straight into the genjutsu. A normal man, yes. But no genjutsu as weak as the one you just tried to place upon me will ever get past my eyes. The young man responded before lurching forwards, grabbing the man from the back of his head before pulling him forwards, slamming his right hidden blade straight into the man's throat. The man gurgled as his blood leaked over the metal blade. The man stumbled backwards as Naruto ducked, allowing a kunai from one of the other ninja to slam into the already dying man's head, sending him to cover the ground in a spray of crimson. "Why the hell won't this kid die?" the single remaining Auto ninja cried. Quickly reacting, the 3 remaining Suna ninja leapt into the air, releasing a barrage of kunai and shuriken upon the Rinnegan user. The blonde's elegant eyes narrowed as the ninja tools rained down upon him. Once again raising his hands into the air, Naruto once again used his Shinra Tensei, sending the kunai weapons away from him. The weapons sailed backwards, impaling 2 of the Sanagakure ninja, much to the horror of the remaining Auto and Suna men. The 2 impaled Suna ninja fell to the ground, farther staining it red. In backlash of the attack, Naruto stumbled backwards, beginning to pant heavily. 2 is still my limit on Shinra Tensei. Damn it all. The AIM ninja cried in his mind as the remaining 2 ninjas seemed to notice his sudden decrease in strength. The 2 quickly began to advance forwards on their opponent before the Suna ninja's eyes widened. A low gurgle came from him before he fell to his knees, his head rolling away from his boy, courtesy of Naruto's human path sword. As the Otogakure ninja moved to strike Izuna's reanimated corpse, he was, however, quickly eliminated as Naruto's animal path appeared behind him in a gust of wind, slamming his bandaged arm straight through the man's head, staining his bandages red. As Sora's reanimated body ripped itself from its victim's skull, splattering the clearing that the small battle that had occurred in even more blood, the human path moved forward, offering Naruto a slight support as he grasped his shoulder. Suddenly, Kisame and Itachi appeared in the clearing, having quickly rushed forwards when Naruto's paths had ran to his aid. "Naruto, are you okay? What happened?" Itachi questioned as he began to observe the blonde-headed boy's body for any injuries. The boy ushered the Sharingan wielder away as his animal path too came to offer a strength support to Naruto. "I am fine. I was not even hit. But I used my limit on my Shinra Tensei. Nagato says that there is a method to truly perfect it, but he won't reveal it to me. So this is what happens." Naruto responded as his strength slowly started to seep back into him. As this conversation occurred, Kisame glanced around the clearing, a look of disappointment upon his face at the obvious chance of a battle. "You could have let me know you were going to fight. I wanted in," the shark-skinned man exclaimed as Itachi shot him a small glare. With a shrug, Kisame turned fully to face Naruto in his 2 paths of sin, before speaking once again. "So, did you find out any reasons as to why a squadron of Auto ninja were meeting up with a squadron of Suna ninja?" He questioned the youngest Rinnegan user, who nodded. "Hi, I found out why. Heard them talking before I attacked. It looks like they're planning an invasion on Konoha. Orochimaru is leading them." At the mention of the Snake Man's name, the 2 Akatsuki member become increasingly attentive. "I don't know any specifics beyond that, but when the Suna ninja mentioned their cage, the Auto ninja became slightly amused. Their eyes scream betrayal. I believe that the Sanagakure cage has been murdered. We need to report this to Nagato before you even contemplate moving any farther towards Konohagakure." In response, the 2 elder ninja nodded. The male ninjas moved forwards to the middle of the clearing, Kisame and Itachi sitting shoulder to shoulder. Izuna and Sora lowered their commander to sit with his shoulders touching both Kisame and Itachi, forming a triangle. Looking upwards, Naruto spoke to his 2 paths with a voice that commanded obedience. "Watch over us. If anyone comes even remotely close to this clearing, wake us from the jutsu." The animal and human paths nodded at the command as the 3 sitting ninjas closed their eyes, their hands raising up into the same single seal. Undisclosed cave. "Naruto, Itachi, Kisame. Why have you contacted me so early? You left here not hours ago." A distorted voice spoke as the 3 mentioned males stared at a shadowy figure that resembled Nagato's diva path. "Sorry for interrupting whatever you were doing." Kisame spoke to the path of pain. But Naruto came into some information about Orochimaru and an invasion on Konoha. "Is that correct? Tell me, Naruto, what did you find?" "We were heading towards Konohagakure, going through Kusa. When we were in the forest nearby, I felt the presence of 10 ninja, 5 sound, and 5 sand. I had my animal and human paths, as well as Itachi and Kisame wait behind before going ahead. I heard them speak about Orochimaru and an invasion. Additionally, when the cage was mentioned, something about the Auto ninja didn't seem right. I believe he may have been killed. Nevertheless, they didn't go into any more specifics, so I moved in for the kill." "I see. So Orochimaru may make an appearance during the Chunin exams. Very well, so be it. Your main objective still remains on capturing the Jinchuriki should the opportunity arise. However, if the opportunity to kill Orochimaru or discover the Sora ring that he stole from us presents itself, do not hesitate then either. Is that all? Hi. Good. Itachi, Kisame, remain in Konoha under your genjutsus on standby. If that coward dares to show his face to interfere with Naruto, or gets in the way of any of our plans, move forwards and strike him down. No questions asked. Hi, Leader Sama. Naruto. The blonde-haired boy's Rinnegan eyes slowly opened themselves to stare at his watchful paths of sin. Animal, human, we've been given our order. Let's move out. I don't wish to prolong this trip any more than we have to. The two reanimated males nodded their heads as they helped Naruto to his feet. The five within the clearing glanced around at each other before they lurched from the position in the blood-stained area, quickly making their escape. Village hidden in the leaves. Man, this job fucking sucks. A Chunin of Konoha complained as he stood at his post at the village's gates. With an over-the-top sigh, the man fell backwards into his chair. I mean damn, I know it's the Chunin exams but this is bullshit. I know. The guard opposite him snapped angrily. I know how much it suck. Now shut the fuck up. I'm tired of hearing you bitch all day. I mean, you just sit there, talking my ear off. Azuma? No, you sit there and shut the fuck up. But, no, zip it. The guard exclaimed as his comrade raised his hands with a shrug of his arms. With a sigh of relief, the man turned away from his partner, though he came face to face with a brown-haired man dressed in a Megacure's Jonin uniform. Beside him was a blue-haired man from the same village. Both men, as well as the three younger males that followed them, wore missing ninja hiatates however. The guards tensed until one of the men raised his hand, bringing an identification card forwards. We wear Missin AIM headbands because our Amikage wears them as well. I am Kiyoshi, co-sensei with Meiko of Team SIN. The blue-haired man spoke, slowly grinning as he revealed his fanged teeth to the Chunin guards, whom shivered at the sight. With a raised eyebrow, the man slowly handed the village passports back over to their owners before he spoke. Team SIN? Their initials. The man replied as he and the strange team from AIM entered the village of Konoha at a slow pace. Remember what Leader Sama said. The brown-haired man spoke as the Chunin slowly faded away into the distance. Jinchuriki first, Orochimaru and the ring second. We know. The blonde behind him spoke as he and his two teammates branched away from their senseis. We'll find whatever hotel you check us into. I want to get reacquainted with village. He spoke again as the two elder men nodded in response. Looking back at the two companions, whom stayed with him, he pointed to the Hokage monument. Let's head that way and see what we find along the way. The two behind him nodded in response as they departed, never noticing the furrowed brow of a red-headed girl. He looked kinda like Tusan. I wonder if that's what my brother would have looked like. Ni-san, where are you? Hokage Tower. Minato Koi? Do you think Naruto will come back to us this year? A red-haired woman questioned as a blonde-haired man released a breath of annoyance, glancing up from his paperwork. I don't know. We wait every year but he never comes. I wouldn't hold my breath again this year, Kushinaheim. Besides, you and I both know that we wouldn't have come back to a family who we believed didn't love us. It's our own fault, and now we are paying the consequences. I know. Itachi and Kisame. Hey, Itachi? The shark-skinned man questioned as they released their henges upon entering their hotel room. Seeing that he had his partner's attention, the monster of the hidden mist spoke. You think the kid will leave if his family tries to get him back? Itachi's red eyes closed for a moment before he shook his head. No, I've heard the conversations between Leader Sama and Naruto. They both hate the Namikaze clan, with every fiber of their beings. They work together and strive to make them all suffer. And this village holds no favor in Naruto's eyes. Through Leader Sama's retelling of what happened to him, Naruto has grown to despise this village for how his uncle was treated. History is repeating itself in Naruto, and I truly believe, should Pain ever die, that sin will fill his place. Itachi responded with 100% positivity on the subject. Naruto, I can't stand this village. And I can't wait until it gets burned down to its rotten foundation. Naruto's voice stated to his animal and human paths as his Rinnegan channeled as much rage and hate as he possibly could in place of his uncle. "Hey, why don't you watch where the fuck you're going, runt?" A male's voice called from the streets of Konoha. One Konohamaru Sarutobi had been running, alongside his friends Udon, Moegi, and the older Nami, to escape the wrath of one Sakura Haruno. He had, however, miscalculated his movements and therefore had run himself into a purple face-painted puppeteer of Sanagakure. A very violent puppeteer, to be specific. The puppeteer wore a black, baggy, full bodysuit with a red and yellow circle on the front. He wore a black hood which covered his head completely, and had cat-like ears, as well as his hiatate, patented into it. Kankuro, a girl with blonde hair tied into 4 ponytails behind him, called as everyone within the streets tensed. The girl had stunning green eyes, wearing a single light purple-colored off-the-shoulders garment that traveled downwards to her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. She wore fishnets over her shoulders and legs, specifically her right calf and left thigh. Tied around her neck was a black Suna hiatate. "Put the kid down. We don't want to cause a scene." The puppet user glanced over his shoulder with a scowl adorning his face before he shook his head, bringing his fist high into the air as Nami begged for the boy's safety. "Fuck that, Tamari. This Konoha brat shouldn't have ran into me like he did. Now he's going to pay the consequences." The black-wearing Suna ninja returned with a growl. As he began to bring his hand down, everybody's eyes widened as a blonde-haired AIM ninja appeared right beside of the puppeteer. His left hand grasping the other male's wrist, his other outstretched and closed, as if he had caught something. "What the hell is your problem, AIM?" Kankuro questioned, though he winced in pain as more pressure was applied to his wrist as the AIM ninja's rippled eyes came to rest upon him. "It's that boy again, the one who looks like Tucson," Nami realized as she observed him. "Trust me, I would like nothing more than to see you decimate every single Konoha villager on this street." However, at this point, the blonde released the Suna ninja's wrist, allowing him to drop the Sarutobi boy and move the appendage around, to get a feel back into it. Pointing to the branch of a tree, where a black-haired Uchiha sat, the ripple-eyed boy brought his right close to the Suna puppeteer's face, crushing a rock in his palm. "Konoha ninja are slippery, and they have no problems with attacking you for the slightest mishap. This is not a slight mishap, this almost a cry for war, with one of the Yondaime Kasuke's children attacking the Sandaime Hokage's grandson. In front of the Yondaime Hokage's daughter no less," the blonde replied as he began walking away from the group. "Besides, if you had assaulted the kid, you would have not only been evicted from the village of Konoha, but you would have been, ultimately, banned from the Konohagakure Chunin exams. I'm sure certain circumstances would make you reconsider being banned." At these words, the Suna genin's eyes widened. Does he know about the invasion? Tamari questioned herself as she allowed an unconscious step backwards, her hands raised. "What are you talking about? Why should we care if we get banned? We can just take the exams in another." "Tamari, Kankuro," a raspy dark voice called from the same tree that the Uchiha still sat upon. With widened eyes, Sasuke quickly looked to his right, finding a red-headed green-eyed Suna ninja wearing a gourd strapped to his back, dangled upside down from the branch opposite him. The young man wielded black rings around his eyes, such as a tanuki, and the kanji for love carved into the left side of his forehead. He wore a full bodysuit with t-shirt-like sleeves, 3/4 length legs and an open neck. With this, he wore a white cloth over his right shoulder and left side of his hips, and a wide leather band system over left shoulder and right side of his hips. With the leather band he carried his gourd. Also wrapped over the band was his headband. "That's enough. There's no reason to act stupidly and suspiciously." With these words, he disappeared from view in a swirl of sand, farther surprising the people around him, bar the blonde who narrowed his rippled eyes as the redhead glared at him. "Thank you for stopping my moronic brother." He spoke again, with no emotion, let alone sincerity in his voice. Sakura's brow scrunched in confusion as she observed the foreign ninja. "Wait just a minute. You're Suna ninjas, and you're an AIM ninja. What are you doing here in Konoha?" The puppeteer and his fan-wielding comrade seemed to find this increasingly funny as they began chuckling at the pink-haired girl's expense. "You really don't know?" the blonde-haired Suna ninja questioned as she finally dropped her amusement at seeing the further confused face of the Konoha ninja. "Geez, where have you all been? Living under a rock?" Every 6 months the villages hold the Chunin exams, so genin can advance in rank without having on-field promotions. The place the exams are held at differ each time. This month, the exams just so happened to be here, in Konoha. I thought all of the Konoha ninja would know that. Guess not? Enough talking. The redhead interrupted any further conversation as he turned his back to Every, beginning his track to a different location. Come, Tamari, Kankuro, I tire of this company. As the two Suna ninja followed their apparent team leader, the black-haired Uchiha leapt from his perch in the tree, his right index finger coming to point at the retreating ninja's back. Wait, I want to know your names. The Sharingan wielder called as the Sanagakure ninja stopped, glancing at him over their shoulders. The three remained silent for a moment before the red-headed ninja opened his mouth once again, his eyes forever emotionless. I am Gaara of the desert. These are my siblings, Tamari and Kankuro. He responded as the Uchiha nodded in understanding. A smirk began dawning on the black-headed teenager's face as he pointed to himself, his eyes shining with pride. I guess you want to know my name now. The Sharingan wielder spoke as Gaara continued to stare at him with his emotionless eyes. There was a long pause between the ninja before the red-heading Suna ninja shook his head in a negative fashion as he lifted his right hand, extending his index finger out to point at the blonde-headed, ripple-eyed AIM ninja. Not as much as mother, and I want to know your name. The blonde AIM ninja. Gaara clarified near the end, seeing as there were two blondes within the streets, bar his own sister. The blonde's eyebrow lifted in response as he walked forwards, coming face to face with red-haired Suna ninja. With eyes as emotionless as the Jinchuriki's eyes, the blonde-haired ninja made a hand gesture. The figures of a dark-haired male and one blue-haired, both with their eyes covered, landed behind the rippled-eyed young man. If you wish to know my name, Sabaku no Gaara, the blonde-haired AIM ninja finally spoke as he began walking past the young Suna ninja, then follow us. We have much to discuss. My dear Suna container. At the blonde's words, Gaara's eyes widened before he narrowed them with the smallest of nods as he began walking forwards to follow, motioning his sibling to do the same. Slowly, the two elder ninjas glanced towards each other before following after their brother. With a growl, Sasuke crushed a remaining rock in his hands, almost to the same effect that the ripple-eyed AIM ninja had, before releasing the dust into the wind. Gaara of the desert, huh? The Uchiha questioned himself as he glanced towards the ground. I'll be watching for you. And the blonde AIM one too. With those words, the Uchiha spun on his heels, in the direction opposite of what the other 6 ninja had left from. Oh, Sasuke-kun, thank you for saving us. Do you think we could? Sakura, go away. As this conversation was held between the pink-haired ninja and the black-haired Uchiha, Nami's brow continued to furrow in confusion, her eyes set in the direction that the Omegakure and Sanagakure ninja had left. He looks so much like Tusan. Could he know, Ni-san would never become a ninja of Omegakure? Would he? I need to talk with Tusan and Ka-san, now. Glancing to her two teammates, Nami offered a swift goodbye before she began a quick walk to her father's office, leaving the Uchiha and Haruno alone to argue between dating and not dating. Rooftop, just above the streets. What did you think of all of that, Nei, Samui, Yugito? A dark-skinned, long red-headed young kunoichi of Kumogakure questioned as she looked over her shoulder at two blonde-headed, also from Kumo, with her amber eyes. The redhead wore a short-sleeved dress with frilly edges complete with a Kumogakure flag jacket. In addition to this, she wore 2 earrings, fishnet stockings, thigh-high boots with white soles and a white headband, which was worn as a bandana. One of the blondes, a fair-skinned woman with tall stature and curvaceous build with a large bust, glanced over to the redhead. The blonde had blue eyes and straight blonde hair framing her face, reaching down to her shoulders with a shorter cut in the back. She wore a very low-cut outfit with mesh underneath, a short skirt and red handguards, high boots and what appears to be a modified Kumogakure flak jacket that covers her stomach only, similar to a girdle. She also has a tanto strapped horizontally to her lower back. Finally, with a stoic expression, the blonde kunoichi spoke. I don't think that it was all that cool. Except the blonde AIM one. Now he was cool. At these words, the blonde-haired girl next to her shook her head. The second blonde kunoichi had long, straight, blonde, hair bound with taut bandages and dark eyes. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple blouse, black pants both of which had a design similar to clouds on them, purple fingerless gloves and a chain of white beads wound around her left hand. She also wore the standard Kumo forehead protector, sandals and kunai holster which was strapped to her right thigh. She also wore bandages around her arms and legs as well as a red belt around her waist. I don't know, Samui. Something was off about him. Did you see his eyes? They were almost as emotionless as the redheads. Actually, I thought his eyes were pretty cool, Yugito. At these words, the other blonde nodded her head in admittance. Okay, yeah, the purple ripple eye look was cool. But that doesn't change the fact that there was something completely off about him. Careful, Yugito. If you get any more paranoid, you might turn into the next Omoi. The redhead, Karui, cut into her teammate's conversation, drawing a dirty look from the Kumo Jinchuriki container. I'm just saying, the redhead warned as she peered back over the edge of the building they sat atop, to see if any other interesting events had occurred. Sin and Sand siblings. You plan to extract my Biju, and all other Biju? A skeptical Gaara questioned the blonde in front of him as his siblings glared at the Omega Cure ninja. The blonde nodded slowly as the others stood by his side, motionless. Why, would that not kill me? I refuse to allow my existence to end, aim ninja. The redhead warned as the top to his gourd popped off, his sand beginning to swirl around hazardously. Through this, the ripple-eyed Omega Cure ninja had watched the scene before him without emotion. You misunderstand, Gaara. We wish to extract all Biju, and begin our own world order just as you and your nation intend to do on the final day of the exam. However, there is a trick to keeping a container alive through our process of extraction. If the Jinchuriki does not fight us, if they lay still and allow us to do our jutsu while we keep the best medical ninja we have beside them, the container will only remain in bad health for a few days. Almost like a small vacation from our line of work. If the container struggles, however, not even the greatest medical ninja will be able to keep the Jinchuriki alive. So, what you're saying is, Konkuro intercepted rudely, you want Gaara, and us, to abandon the Konoha invasion and join Omega Cure. Then, you plan to have Gaara's demon removed, with his permission? You must be out of your kami damned. Not as crazy as you are for following Orochimaru. We had our ninja scourge your deserts. Your Case is dead. Killed by the same man you plan to aid in this invasion. Therefore, you all have a choice. Follow the man who murdered your father, or aid me in my organization in our new world order. Don't answer now, think about it. I'll know your answers by the end of the Chunin exams. With these words, the blonde Omega Cure ninja swirled on his heels, walking away from the Sand siblings, though Gaara called out to him. Wait, you never told me your name. Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki. Hokage Tower. You think that one of the Omega Cure ninja is who? Minato Namikaze questioned his youngest child. She had come to him, with a wild accusation that one of the AIM ninja was actually her long-lost brother, Naruto. The Namikaze family, after realizing the neglect they had given him as a young child, had went to make everything right with him. Yet it was too late, and he vanished from the village with a trace. The family had searched far and wide, but no sight of him had ever surfaced. And the thought that he had returned to his homeland, as an AIM ninja? It was blasphemous. I'm telling you, San. I think it's Naruto ni-san. Okay, tell me then, what's he look like? Minato spoke as he leaned back into his leather chair, an irritated sigh coming from his lips as he pushed stacks of paperwork aside to stare at the red-headed form of his daughter. Okay, well, he looks almost exactly like you, San. And some of his features even match Ka-san's. And he has blonde hair, and… Nami. The girl's father interrupted as the girl's eye widened. Closing her mouth, the young girl watched as her dad massaged his temples in an obvious act to fight off an upcoming migraine. These can all just be coincidences. There may be hundreds of people in the nations that hold facial features similar to your mom's and my own. And while blonde hair may be rare here, it's actually very common elsewhere in the elemental nations. Besides, what did his eyes look like? Green, brown, blue? No. Actually, his eyes were really weird. They were like gray-ish purple and they had all of these ripples branching out from his pupils. At these words, the Yondaime Hokage's pencil snapped, his eyes narrowing with an intense look upon his features. What? Yeah, they were really weird. But in this pretty exotic charming type of wave, you know? Anyway, I guess you're right. I just want to see Ni-san so badly that. Never mind, I'll see you around Tucson. The girl called as she quickly left the office, Minato still staring intensely at the spot that she had just occupied. Silently, the Yondaime Hokage reached over his desk, pressing a small red button. Yes, Lord Hokage? A man's voice spoke through an intercom. Get my wife, Kushina, and bring her here. Yes, Lord Fourth. Sin. Naruto's eyes narrowed dangerously as he spun heavily on his heels, allowing a kunai to sail through the air. His intended target dodged to the side, slicing off a few raven-colored hairlocks. Very good, Naruto. I should know better than to try to sneak up on you. Itachi? Hi. Kisame and I have found a few Otogakure ninja and interrogated them. We've come into the information that Orochimaru plans on, not only beginning the invasion during the final exam, but interfering in the second exams. I felt it necessary to warn you that we will be trailing you and him. Naruto nodded at this information before he opened his mouth and responded to his fellow Akatsuki comrade. I see. I have no problem with this. Just stay out of my way. I want to be in and out of the forest as quickly as possible. Do not intervene with any Jinchuriki before I have had the chance to speak to them. If I can sway them over to our side, not only will we have the Biju, but former Jinchuriki that retain a small amount of their Biju's chakra. That was not the original plan. No, but my plan works better. Uncle agrees. So, unless they refuse, we're doing things my way. And don't begin the counter-strike on Orochimaru during the final exam until I give the signal. I need to know if Gaara is with us. Or against us. Hi. Naruto's elegant rippled eyes glanced over the assembled genin before him. He had yet to actually reach the room, or floor for that matter, that he was supposed to. Still, it was increasingly humorous to watch a mob of genin to try to break past two hanged chunin, to get into the wrong exam room. Glancing over his shoulder at his animal and human paths, the Rinnegan wielder's hand twitched as he began walking past the mob. His paths quickly followed suit, making their way past what could have been their competitors. More than likely, someone will ruin everything and bring all of the people to the exam room. With that lingering thought, the blonde turned his back to the more moronic of the Chunin hopefuls. The blonde-haired Omegakure ninja and his teammates continued down the halls of the examining building before he came to a dead stop in front of a sliding door. Leaning on the wall sat Kisame, hanged into his disguise. Next to him, in his ever-emotionless state, stood Itachi, also disguised. Naruto walked forwards to the rogue ninjas. Have there been any changes in the plans? Naruto questioned the two before him, though they knew the real question had been, has Uncle retracted the order? No. Leader Sama has left all plannings to you. Therefore, we will enter the second exam, hidden, alongside you. We will trail Orochimaru and yourself to make sure that the Snake Sannin will not come into contact with you. From the information we gathered, the second exam will take the entirety of a week. That should be more than enough time for you to come into contact with the Jinchuriki and the exams. And then, when the time comes, and you give us our signal, we will begin the counter-strike upon Orochimaru. Itachi replied quickly, Naruto nodding in response. Good. Then I'll see you two during the second exam. And Itachi, make sure that Kisame doesn't draw any attention to himself. There's a reason everyone called him the Biju without a tail. Naruto responded as the hidden shark skin man released a grunt in response. With a nod, Itachi stepped aside, allowing Naruto to enter the true Chunin exam room. Immediately upon entering, Naruto and his teammates drew the stares of everyone within the room. Killing intent flooded towards him, though Naruto refused to make a reaction to it. Better that they don't know anything about my strength. The blonde concluded as he walked forwards. As Naruto leaned against one of the white walls, followed quickly by his paths whom both sat, cross-legged by his feet, he glanced around the room, looking for anyone with even a small amount of potential. He had, surprisingly, not been completely disappointed. Off to one corner of the room sat a team of 3 kunoichi from Kumo, consisting of a dark-skinned redhead and 2 fair-skinned blondes. One of the blondes snagged his attention more so than the other. Naruto was able to sense chakra to an extent, and the knowledge was enough to allow him to find that she was indeed a Jinchuriki. 2 found. Parallel to them sat a team from Takigakure. However, only one gained his attention. It was the only girl of the team, sitting away from her male companions. She wore an orange clip in her short, spiky mint green hair that matched her eye color, which was also orange. Her ninja outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Her forehead protector was worn on her right arm. The young woman also carried a cylindrical object in red wrapping on her back, the purpose of which is unknown. She too had the essence of a Jinchuriki. 3. Moving his head around, one final person made themselves known to Naruto. It was a kunoichi from Kusagakure who wielded red eyes, matching hair color, and an unusual hairstyle. Her hair being kept short, pointy, and unkempt on the right side, while it is long, pinned straight and combed on her left side. In addition to this, she wore a brown pair of glasses. The girl's outfit consisted of a lavender uniform, short black shorts, and long black thigh-high stockings with black sandals. While Naruto could not feel any Biju chakra, something about the girl interested him. Perhaps I'll approach her too. Uncle always said to follow your instinct, and there's definitely some. Any other musing the blonde-haired Omegakure ninja had were cut short as, true to his earlier hypothesis, one of the Konoha teams revealed the genjutsu on the floor below to the hopeless genin. Shortly after the three whom had done the act, Team Kakashi, arrived, their fellow rookie comrades had made themselves known, drawing an even larger amount of attention to themselves. Fatal flaw. Naruto thought to himself as he closed his eyes. You all should keep your voices down. You're drawing too much attention to yourselves. Naruto's eyes opened to stare at the male who had come to offer his aid to the Chunin hopefuls. He wore a trademark pair of circular glasses. The new appearance had black eyes and ash-gray hair, which was kept in a ponytail. The gray-haired ninja wore a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a white undershirt, fingerless gloves with armored plates on the back of the hand, a white cloth waistband worn at an angle, dark purple pants, blue sandals, and a shuriken holster on his right leg. Tied around his forehead was a Konoha forehead protector, showing his alliance to the village hidden in the leaves. Naruto narrowed his rippled eyes at the new arrival. There was something off about him. Something about the way he stood and carried himself. His aura and everything, none of it matched to the persona he showed the Konoha rookies as he laughed with them, showing them an invention of his labeled chakra cards. So is there anyone you need information on? The gray-haired boy questioned, drawing Naruto from his musings. Quickly, the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha stepped forwards. I want to know about Gaara of the Sand, Rock Lee, and that blonde-haired AIM ninja. Nami interrupted his final suggestion, the gray-haired genin, Kabuto if Naruto heard right, raising an eyebrow. With a small smile, his glasses gleaming in the light, the Konoha genin brought forth 3 cards, channeling chakra into them. Well, at least you don't know the last one's name. It takes away the fun if you know all of the names. Kabuto spoke as he glanced down at his first card. Gaara of the Desert, teammates, Tamari and Kankuro, his siblings. Sensei, unknown. He has completed over 40 A-rank missions and 33 B-ranks, returning from every single one without a scratch. He is most proficient in ninjutsu, with little to nothing being known about his general and taijutsu. Rock Lee, teammates are Neji Hyuga and Tenten. Sensei is Maida Guy. He has completed a total of 40 D-rank missions, 22 C-ranks, and 1 B-rank mission. His excels in taijutsu, with no chakra to be able to use gen and ninjutsu whatsoever. And finally, the blonde Omegakure ninja. Well, this is strange. No name has been given out for him, his village simply opting to call him In. His teammates are S and I. Sin? Anyways, there is no information on his sensei. Most of his mission have been disclosed as private, but I do have a little information. What I have is 33 B-rank missions and 46 A ranks. Added to that, he has 52 undisclosed mission completed since he first became a genin 2 years ago. I have no information on his nin, gen, or taijutsu. I don't know how, but he and his team have completely gone under my radar. Kabuto spoke, confused before he shook his head. Naruto still sat with his back leaned against the white wall of the exam room, his eyes narrowing to slits as he watched the scenes before him unfold. How does he know that much? Granted, he got most of my stats wrong. He knew way too much about someone from Sand when he himself is a Konoha genin. Something definitely doesn't sit right with this guy. The blonde's eyes stayed trained on the gray-haired boy, who had begun to sweat at the unwanted attention. Fortunately, or maybe not so much, the gray-haired boy had insulted the single-team Fro Otogakure, which resulted in them rushing to the front, using, of course, sound-based techniques. Kabuto fell to his knees, vomit spilling from his mouth as he, no doubt, tried to fight away the resounding vibrations traveling throughout his skull. All of you, take notice. No one's going to insult Otogakure. If you do, the spiky-haired genin's statement was cut short as the room was suddenly shrouded in smoke, forcing Naruto to stiffen in preparation for a fight. As it cleared, it revealed a scarred man, decked out in a black outfits, standing at the front of the examination room, surrounded by chunins holding stacks of papers, no doubt the actual exams. Hey, you, Otto maggots. Do you want to be kicked out of my exams? No? Then sit the fuck down and shut the hell up. All of you. My name is Ibiki Morino, and I am your first proctor. Here in these chunins' hands are your exams. They will pass them out to you. On the sheet is 9 questions that you will have a total of 1 hour to answer. Anyone caught cheating 5 times within that time span will be evacuated from this room, and the exams, along with their teammates. At the end of the hour, I will give you a 10th question. Is everyone clear on these rules and regulations? The scarred man questioned as his chunin underlings finished passing out the papers. Yes? Good. Flip the tests and get started. 1 hour. Of course, even with the ridiculous questions that had been printed onto the test, Naruto had quickly finished as he found the meaning of Ibiki's introduction caught cheating. There's always some hidden meaning to the bullshit that Konoha sprouts. Look underneath the underneath, and all of that crap. Shrugging as he noticed that he had plenty of time left before the written exam was finished, the blonde glanced around the room at those that had piqued his interest. The dark-skinned Kumo Kunoichi and her fair-skinned companion sent messages back and forth, using their pencils to make Morse code. The green-haired girl from Taki had, seemingly, finished on her own and was now glaring at those around her with obvious hate. And the red-headed Kunoichi from Kusa sat, relaxed in her chair with her eyes fixated on her exam as she scribbled away. With her head down, her shirt parted slightly, allowing Naruto to see the scar of what looked to be a bite mark. Multiple bite marks to be exact. Naruto narrowed his rippled eyes at the sight. Why would she have bite marks, of all the injuries she could receive? How did she even get them? Almost as if sensing the Omegakure ninja's stare, the red-headed girl lifted her head, allowing her beautiful red eyes to meet Naruto's own elegant rippled ones. Eyes widening at the attention she was receiving from the AIM ninja, the girl quickly returned her stare to her paper, a blush adorning her cheeks. Naruto's eyes left her and traveled across of the room for the remainder of the time, watching his teams quit, or were failed, while also observing the more intelligent ninja's way of gaining the information needed for the test. From using one's Kekkei Genkei to having a puppet disguised as a chunin proctor lead one away. It was all fairly amusing to Naruto really. Finally, the timer that Ibiki had set rang loudly throughout the room as he glared around at everyone. Pencils down. I hope you all had time to finish. If not, that's too bad. Now, I'm going to give you the 10th question. However, there are rules to the question. Rules? What rules could you possibly have for one question? Don't interrupt me. The rules are simple. I'll give you the 10th question, and if you can answer it, you pass the first exam. However, if you fail to answer it, not only will you fail this exam, but you will never be able to take these exams, ever again. What? You can't do that. People have taken these exams before and never been permanently held back. Yeah? Well that's too damn bad. They were just lucky that they didn't have me as their chunin exam proctor. Now, if anyone wants to quit, then be my guest. Pick up your teammates, walk out of that door and have the opportunity to take these exams next time, when you don't have me as your proctor. Ibiki spoke cruelly, Naruto staring ahead at him with a stoic expression. Slowly, one by one, people within the room began apologizing to their teammates as they bowed out of the exams. Good riddance. Less competition to stand in my way. Nami glanced over at the young AIM ninja she thought to be her brother. I need to get his attention. That way, if he is Naruto Ni-san, then he can understand that I miss him. And maybe he'll come back. Nodding her head, the red-headed child of the Yondaime Hokage began lifting her hand into the air, drawing shocked looks from the proctors surrounding her. Before she slammed said appendage down onto her desk with a growl. I don't care if you hold me back. I'll find some other way to get power. Because I have a dream to one day be strong enough to bring my big brother back to this village. And no stupid little test is going to stop me from doing that. The redhead exclaimed, practically giving the remaining ninja within the room a backbone. Hopefully that made him notice me. Cammy, damn it, she knows how to piss me the fuck off. Over half of these pricks were just about gone and she had to pick herself up and… Easy Naruto. Rage is one of a ninja's worst enemies. So relax. Your chance at revenge is coming. Well, is that everybody that is going to quit? Yes? Then, you all passed the first portion of the Chunin exams. Silence reigned in the classroom as Naruto glanced around to gauge everyone's reactions. Shock. Yes, that was the emotion that sat, displayed across of the majority of the ninjas' faces. What? What about the 10th question? What about all of the other questions? What about… Shut up. Most of you didn't even get the first half of my test. You were supposed to cheat without getting caught by my proctors. I even placed the Chunin in with you. It was a test to see how well you can gather information when the mission calls for you to think on your toes. And the 10th question. At this, Ibiki reached upwards, withdrawing the bandana he wore on his skull and making most of the genin within the room wince at the sight of his scarred skin tissue. Sometimes on a mission you'll have to make a decision. Your well-being, or the well-being of your village. It's what the torture and interrogation department is for. If you spill what you know, you die a coward's death by your village. But if you don't spill, you die a slow death. An honorable one, but slow. It comes down to if you can endure it, if you could make the right choice. First of all, Anko, you're early. Secondly, I'm not going soft. This is just an extremely talented bunch of brats this year. Ibiki replied to the snake mistress, who rolled her eyes in response as she glanced over the faces again, taking them all in. We'll see about that. By the time I'm done with them, they'll be shortened by at least half. Alright rookie wannabes, follow me to training ground number 44. The woman called before she disappeared in a plume of smoke, leaving behind an irritated Ibiki and confused Genin. Rippled eyes took this in stride before Naruto stood up, drawing everyone's attention to him. With a twitch of his hand, his comrades were by his side in an instant as they began their track on finding the mentioned training ground. Well? Ibiki questioned the remaining Genin with a glare. What are you waiting for? She told you to meet her at training ground 44, and I would be there as soon as possible. Anko doesn't tolerate tardiness. At these words, the Genin scrambled from their seats as they rushed to catch up with the blonde-haired AIM ninja, all lost in their own train of thoughts. Training ground number 44. Alright maggots, listen up. Anko cried out, drawing all of the Genin's attention to her. This is the second exam, survival. We're going to give every team a scroll, either an earth or a heaven scroll. Your goal is to hunt down the scroll that you don't have, or take others so they can't pass and then go to that giant tower there, in the middle of the forest of death. She cried gleefully, though her face darkened as she noticed the ripple-eyed AIM ninja with an amused expression. So quick that more than a few Genin caught whiplash, Anko threw a kunai at the boy, that he dodged simply by tilting his head to the side. At this, Anko appeared behind the AIM ninja silently, another kunai poised at his neck as the Genin surrounding them gasped. You don't look so amused anymore. You know, it's people like you that always die first. The snake mistress admonished, before Naruto quickly grasped her wrist, bringing it over his head and positioning Anko's kunai at her own back. Perhaps, but it will not to underestimate an opponent. That is a ninja's greatest downfall. Anko grumbled angrily as she took her kunai from Naruto, positioning it at a Kusa ninja's throat as many of the Genin around them released sounds of disgusting as they saw her tongue elongated. It was a truly disturbing sight. Sorry, I couldn't what interesting eyes you have. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the slightly familiar sign as he glanced around the crowd, easily finding who he was looking for. Kisame, hanged as a cheesy-looking Genin, flashed Naruto the peace sign. Nodding as Itachi's own hanged form came to stand beside of his Akatsuki partner, Naruto turned back to the snake mistress as she began speaking again. Alright, these are release forms, you know, in case you die in there. We won't be held responsible. Everyone just sign the dotted line, follow the Chunin to your designated gate, and when you see a flare from my flare gun, start heading towards the tower. But what about food? That's what the forest is for, brat. Anko returned with a deadpan as her Chunin helpers received the release forms, quickly leading the genin away to their gates. I wonder how many are going to die this year. Ah, it doesn't matter, I got the release for the hell? The snake slithers at midnight? What the hell does that mean? I never took the class on decoding things. Damn it, this better not be someone calling me a whore. Team SIN. Naruto's eyes wearily lifted to the sky as a flare shot high into the air. The gigantic gates before him slowly creaked open, allowing him and his paths of sin to rocket forwards into the forest of death. Jinchuriki and possible comrades first, scroll second, Orochimaru last. Naruto listed off inside of his skull as he leapt from tree to tree in an elegant dance. Naruto closed his own eyes, chakra becoming more visible to him. Unimportant, 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 Naruto listed off as he passed over regular chakra signatures. And there one is, Jinchuriki. With his eyes snapping open, Naruto lurched through the woods, his chakra-covered feet breaking branches away and sending them flying towards the ground in a hazardous way. Behind him, his animal and human paths followed closely behind him. Team Samui, did you see the way that a Megacure ninja put that Konoha one in her place? You have to admit that that was cool, Yugito. Samui called as Yugito shot her fellow blonde-haired kunoichi a dirty look over her shoulder. All I'm admitting is that something is off about him. He keeps looking at me, the Suna boy, and Taki girl in a funny way. It's just, shut up, I'm tired of hearing you two talk about the AIM kid. Yes, his eyes are pretty. Yes, he's quick. And no, we can't trust him. There, argument finished. The two blondes rounded on their teammate, startled at her sudden outburst. The two opened their mouths to say something before another entity made himself know. It's rude to talk behind one's back, you know? Naruto questioned as he glanced around the forest they were in. He had appeared before the three kunoichi of Kumo by himself as a sign of good faith. His paths, however, resided just a short ways away in them. The three kunoichi tensed in preparatio for a fight as they glared at the ripple-eyed blonde. Easy, I'm not here to fight you. Just to talk. Yeah, that's real likely. What are you really here for? The scroll? Or is it because of the way you always look at me and those other two? Yugito questioned the blonde as he allowed a smirk to slip through his usually stoic expression. Very astute of you. It's not the scroll. I saw you get a heaven scroll, same as me, see? So you're right, I'm here to talk to you about the later. Naruto replied as he walked forwards, flashing his heaven scroll to the three kunoichi. You see, Yugito, I'm here to offer you a new chance at life. A chance to not have a demon sealed inside of you. A chance not to be hated or discriminated against. A chance to simply live. Three pairs of eyes glared intently at the blonde before the redhead, Karui, lurched forwards, slamming her fist into the ripple-eyed boy's face. The young man's head tilted slightly as he continued to stare down upon the redhead. And you think Yugito is just going to leave us on an empty promise you can't keep? You know what? Get ready, pretty boy, you stepped into the danger zone, and now you'll pay the consequences. Once again, Naruto raised his hands into the air. I am not here to fight you three. Just extending the same olive branch that I did to Sabaku no Gara, the Jinchuriki of the Shukaku. I won't go into details as we are, but if you consider it, come seek me out, Yugito-san. I hope you all have luck in finding a scroll. And Yugito, be careful. There are less than shady character in this forest. And with that, he was gone, as quickly as he had arrived. Can you believe that guy? I don't know, Karui. I still think he's cool. What if he was telling the truth? No demon? Yugito questioned as her comrades looked to her with sorrow filling their eyes. The two walked forwards to lend their support to their teammate, never dropping their guard in the dangerous forest that they all resided in. Team Takigakure, when the hell are you going to do something, demon? Fu glared at her two teammates darkly. Based specifically on the fact that she was a demon container, the two pricks that she had been assigned to for the exams expected her to go out in the forest of death alone and get a scroll for them. And to be honest, they were truly working on her nerves. Well, don't just sit there looking like a stupid bitch. Get moving. Fu released a snarl at the boy. Hey, watch the attitude. I'll report you to our cage. Her second teammate warned before grinning. Of course, unless you want to persuade me not to. At these words, Fu spat at his feet. From thinking of power to having their minds in the gutter, it was a feat that only the human race could truly achieve. Why you little bitch? The boy lurched forwards to grab the green-haired girl, only to have her foot slammed into his face. The boy was sent stumbling backwards, his friend immediately noticing his distress. The first boy jumped forwards to the second's aid, taking a swing for her head, which she quickly ducked underneath, following up by slamming her knee into his gut. The boy opened his mouth in a silent scream as the girl drilled all of the air out of him. Spinning on her foot quickly, Fu delivered a roundhouse kick to the skull of her second comrade, once again sending him stumbling backwards. The green-haired kunoichi began advancing forwards to the gasping boy, though she released a shout of surprise as her first comrade ambushed her from behind. "Shouldn't have done that, demon bitch. Now we're going to fuck you up even worse than we were going to." The boy was quickly advancing upon her, before he had even finished his statement. As he reached down to grab her, however, a kunai sailed through the air, slamming into the skull of the boy. His eyes widened before he toppled over, falling down to die right next to Fu. From the trees dropped the ripple-eyed form of an Omegakure ninja. He glanced around the clearing before stalking forwards, Fu's second comrade stumbling back in fear at having his friend just murdered in front of him. The blonde boy reached down, grabbing Fu's arm and bringing her to her feet. "Let go. I don't your help. I don't want any help from any of your kind," she warned as she brushed his arm away. The blonde looked at her for a moment, dodging to the side as Fu's comrade once again grew brave, charging her savior, whom rammed his knee into the boy's gut. "I know you don't need my help. But do not classify me into the same category as those who have wronged you and those who continue to wrong you. I only came to you to offer you a chance at a new life," Naruto explained as he ducked under a swing thrown at him by Fu's comrade. "A life where you don't need to fear or worry about demons or war. A place where you may actually find love." The Rinnegan user lured the girl who shook her head. "You're lying. There's nothing you can do to help me. You don't even want to help me. You want to help yourself. That's all your kind wants," the girl exclaimed as Naruto swirled on his foot, lashing out with a kick that cracked his opponent's ribs with little effort. Glancing down at the boy, Naruto finally turned to fully stand in front of Fu. "Maybe I am. And you're right, I want to help myself. But it will help yourself too. If it helps." At these words, Naruto reached into his pouch, withdrawing a kunai as Fu tensed. Her brow furrowed, however, when he gave it to her. "I put my trust in you, so that you may put your own in me." With these words, he turned his back to her, arms stretched and waiting for her to pierce him with his own kunai. She couldn't do it. "Listen, Fu," Naruto spoke as he heard the girl fall to her knees, sobbing. "I'm going to have my comrade escort you back to the tower. When you get there, look for Sabaku no Gara and Ni Yugito. Gather them together. I have to speak with you all." The girl nodded in response as Naruto's animal path came forwards, picking the girl up off of the ground. "Wait, what's your name?" the girl questioned in desperation. Naruto glanced over his shoulder with his forever stoic face before he spoke. "Naruto Uzumaki." And with those words, Naruto and his path went in two separate directions, leaving his human path to fall into place beside of him. "Okay, I have all of the Jinchuriki off of my list. Now all I have to do is get out of this kami-forsaken forest with scrolls. Hopefully I can avoid Orochimaru. I may be strong, but I'm not Sannin strong. Karen, I can't believe this," the red-headed girl screamed as she patted the ground around her, searching for her glasses. In front of her stood a giant bear that slowly advanced forwards to the helpless girl. Her teammates had long since been disposed of by the beast. "This is how I'm going to die?" she questioned as the bear released a roar. Please go away." In response, the bear lifted its hand high into the air, intent on bringing it down on the girl. Karen was, however, surprised when the bear released a scream of anguish, a crimson substance staining her clothes. Quickly feeling the ground, Karen found her brown glassed, placing them back over her eyes, as she stared up into the same ripple effect eyes from the first exam. The girl blushed quickly. She had used her ability as a sensor to cheat, but in doing so had come in contact with the young man's chakra. And, while he tried to appear emotionless, cold and aloof, his warm aura gave a slightly different idea. Glancing down at his feet, the red-eyed girl found that the bear that was about to maul her had been slain, his arms severed from its body and a kunai lodged in its skull. Her eyes slowly traveled from the broken bear back up to the purple-eyed aim ninja before her. "What scroll do you have?" he questioned. Karen sighed. Of course that's what he had come for, that's what they had all been out in the forest for in the first place. My teammates had it, and the bear at them. I swear. Karen spoke quickly as the boy lifted an eyebrow before shrugging. That's too bad. I guess it's time to move on. With that, Naruto turned around, beginning his track away from the girl before she tore from her place on the ground, grabbing Naruto's arm. The Rinnegan wielder rounded on her, eyes confused. Wait, I'm a sensor ninja. I can pinpoint a team out for you and help you ambush them. Just, don't leave me out here by myself. She pleaded with the blonde-haired AIM ninja, hoping that his assumption on his warm chakra had been correct. She had. Okay, just lead me to the ninja, and I'll help you get to the tower. Naruto spoke, Karen shooting him a grateful glance as she latched onto his arm. Shooting the red-headed girl an odd stare, Naruto lurched forwards into the tree, following the directions that the red-headed girl laid out for him. Unnamed team, are you sure that they have an Earth Scroll? Naruto questioned the girl next to him, whom still had herself cuddled into his arm, warily. The girl nodded happily as Naruto's Rinnegan eyes narrowed. Reaching into his kunai pouch, Naruto removed a poison-coated kunai before throwing it through the trees, allowing it to slice one of 3 Genin's cheek. The boy stiffened for a moment before he began to sway heavily. His teammates noticed this, but dismissed it as him being a moron. However, as he fell to the ground, vomiting, Naruto's human path dropped from the opposite side of the forest, slicing their second victim's head off. The remaining Genin reached for a weapon, only to realize that he had taken them off recently. The boy dropped to his knees, begging the path of sin for mercy. He got none as his skull too was removed from his body. The human path walked to the spot where the Genin had hidden their scroll. Pocketing it, he nodded as Naruto and Karen exited from their hiding place. Thank you for the help. You never gave me your name. Naruto spoke to the girl, who smiled upwards at him. Karen, but it's polite to give your name first. Right, I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. At these words, Karen's eyes widened as she stared into the rippled eyes of the Omega Cure ninja. She opened her mouth to try to say something, but was cut off as another figure made himself known. Kukuku. Making friends are we, Naruto-kun? Shit. Here, take her to the tower. Naruto spoke as he shoved Karen into his human path's waiting arms. The red-headed girl punched the path of sin's back as he launched himself into the trees. Wait, Naru, Kukuku. It's been so long, Naruto-kun. When I left Akatsuki, I never realized you would have actually awakened the Rinnegan. If I had, I would have taken you as a test subject. Oh well, I will rectify this now. The snake Sannin cried as he released his killing intent. Over my paths and my dead body. That can be arranged. Kukuku. Do you honestly believe that you can beat me? Orochimaru questioned his ripple-eyed opponent who snarled in response. That eye of yours may have given you a little power, but did it give you enough to hold your own against a Sannin? I doubt it. I don't need to beat you, Orochimaru. The blonde-haired AIM ninja warned the man with narrowed eyes as he glanced around the forest. I just need to hold you off for a short period of time. The snake Sannin released an amused chuckle as he allowed his freakishly long tongue to slither out of his mouth, licking his lips in anticipation of wielding the famed Rinnegan. Naruto's nose wrinkled slightly in disgust. Don't get yet, Orochimaru, you haven't beaten me. The snake-like eyes of a Sannin met the ripple-eyed ones of the Omega Cure ninja before the boy lurched forwards. Naruto stuck his left leg out in a vicious kick, though Orochimaru dodged backwards. Using his opponent's own force against him, Orochimaru's hands latched onto Naruto's ankle. With a strong pull, Naruto was sent into a spiraling front flip. Using his reflexes, the blonde-haired Rinnegan user was able to dodge the kunai thrown at him by the Sannin as he landed, crouched. The snake-like man appeared in almost in an instant, slamming his foot into the blonde-haired young man's face. The blonde released a shout of pain as he was sent tumbling backwards. Orochimaru jumped forwards at the boy's moment of weakness, hoping to end the battle as quickly as he possibly could. With a vicious kick to the boy's head, Orochimaru released a laugh at the boy's expense. Just as I thought. You're weak. The Rinnegan released a chuckle as he spun from his place upon the ground, swiping his opponent's feet put from underneath him. The snake Sannin released a growl of rage as he pushed off of his right hand. Lucky shot, brat. The snake Sannin snarled as Naruto released a chuckle of amusement. Standing to full height, the blonde-headed young man rubbed the side of his head where his opponent had landed his solid kick. The two remained in silence for a moment before both lurched forwards once again. Orochimaru swung with his right hand, a hidden kunai flying from his sleeve. His blonde opponent's eyes widened as he ducked downwards, allowing pieces of his hair to be sliced away from the rest. Spinning in his crouched form, Naruto pressed the release button on his right hidden blade before lurching upwards, trying to jam it into the skull of Orochimaru. Seeing the danger ahead of time, Orochimaru dodged his head to the side, though Naruto still sliced his cheek, allowing blood to dribble down from underneath his eye. The Rinnegan user dived down over the elder ninja's shoulder as the man screamed in rage. The Orochimaru spun on his heels, his eyes filled with rage as Naruto released another chuckle. "How much luck was that, Snake?" the young man questioned as the Sannin jumped back at his opponent. Naruto brought a kunai forwards into his right hand before swinging at his snake-like opponent. Said elder man ducked underneath the kunai, spinning on his left foot before striking outwards with his right. Naruto released a gasp of pain as Orochimaru's foot drove all of his air from inside of his body. The younger ninja bent over in pain. Seeing his chance, the elder man retrieved Naruto's kunai, taking a swipe at the boy's neck. Sensing the danger, Naruto ducked down and rolled, though he received a cut on his leg for his effort. Standing back up and bring forth another kunai, Naruto lurched back at him opponent. As the two ninjas' weapons clashed, sparks flying off of them, Naruto lashed out with a kick, though it was intercepted by Orochimaru's own. Two shots are nothing, just great luck. However, all luck ends eventually. And yours just met its end. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt another presence behind him. Ducking down, and rolling once again, Naruto sent Orochimaru's kunai at the person, or mud clone to be exact, behind him. The clone was surprised as the ninja weapon slammed into its skull. The clone's head lolled backwards for a long moment before it slowly began dissolving back into the material it had been former from. "Nice trick, Orochimaru. Too bad that it didn't work as you wanted it to," Naruto called to his opponent, whom snarled in response. Almost in a flash, Orochimaru was in front of Naruto, the later one's eyes widening in disbelief. Lashing out, Orochimaru slammed a vicious kick into the blonde-haired child's chest, sending him flying backwards before crashing into the ground. "Don't get coy with me, you little pest. This battle is far from over, and you're even farther from beating me," the man hissed as Naruto spat in the direction the snake man stood. Snarling once again, Orochimaru lurched forwards, slamming his foot into the side of the young man's skull, sending him tumbling back to the ground. "All luck ends. And unfortunately for you, your luck is death." The snake man jumped forwards to the Rinnegan user, intent on murdering the boy. With a smirk adorning his face, Naruto rolled backwards from the spot where Orochimaru slammed into just second later. Kicking upwards, Naruto slammed the soles of his feet into the snake man's face, a sickening crack coming from the Sannin's nose. The man stumbled backwards as he held the broken nose with his left hand, stemming the flow of blood. "Kami damn you to the deepest pits of hell, you son of bitch," Orochimaru called to the young man, dropping his normal facade at the battle that the young man had put up, just to smite all plans he had come up with. Naruto kicked off of the ground, his right hand holding him steady on the solid ground before he slammed the silver-plated heel of his shoe into the jaw of the snake Sannin, sending him stumbling to the side. "That's it. If it's a battle that you want, then that's what you will get." Wind release, great breakthrough, the Sannin called with the flip of a few hand seals. Naruto's eyes widened as the deadly gust of wind made it way to him, destroying a large portion of the forest of death. Lifting his hands into the air, just before the wind could fully reach him. "Shinra Tensai," the boy cried as the wind parted, destroying the forest behind him, before leaving him, ultimately, unharmed. The snake Sannin's eyes widened at the sight of the technique before he released a sadistic chuckle as Naruto glared towards him. Orochimaru quickly flipped through a multitude of hand signs, before releasing a steady stream of fire towards his opponent. The blonde-haired Rinnegan user flipped to the side, growling as the fire followed him. In response, Naruto flipped through his own hand seals, his own stream of fire coming from his mouth. The two jutsu clashed, the heat in the center becoming white from the extremely hot temperatures made between the flames. The blonde-haired Rinnegan user grunted as the flames began pushing him backwards, his feet making long markings in the ground. Quickly formulating a plot, Naruto unsheathed a kunai, throwing it just underneath the flames. Orochimaru growled in pain as the weapon pierced his knee, his hold on his jutsu lessening as the jutsu began tilting in his opponent's favor. His frustration overflowing from him, Orochimaru began overpowering his own flames, watching as the Rinnegan eyes of his opponent widening. Releasing his hold on the flames, Naruto dived to the side, watching as Orochimaru incinerated the forest of death. Preforming hand seals as he flipped in mid-air, Naruto landed, whilst slamming his hand into the ground. Orochimaru grunted in pain as the earth beneath him rocketed upwards, slamming into his throat, sending him stumbling backwards as he gasped in pain. "You little pest. I thought that, surely, by now you would be dead. But now, it looks as if I'm going to have to stop treating you as a genin, and more of a talented ninja." The snake Sannin warned as Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Kisame and Itachi. How could you lose sight of Naruto? Our whole mission resides upon him. If he dies, do you not understand that, not only will all of our plans fail, but Leader Sama will murder us?" Itachi talked down upon his Akatsuki partner, who growled in response to the tone the young male had taken. Reaching upwards, Kisame began gripping the hilt of his sword, a habit he had held since his days as a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. "It's not my fault. The kid was flipping through the trees so damn fast, sending his paths that way and this way. Honestly, he was going so fast I thought he might disappear in a flash, like the fourth Hokage. Besides, you were the one who was supposed to keep his eyes on Orochimaru. How in the hell did you lose sight of that snake-fetished freak?" The shark-skinned man questioned his Sharingan-wielding partner, whom grunted in response. "He has made a habit of using mud clones constantly. He keeps so many on hand in the forest, it became increasingly difficult to find which one he had substituted with. Nevertheless, I had confidence that you would not lose Leader Sama's nephew. Apparently, trust that I should not have placed in you." The shark man released another growl in response as he and Itachi felt the increasing chakra signatures of two all-familiar beings. "Do you feel that, Itachi? It looks like they've already met up. We have to hurry, the Gaki can only hold the snake freak off for so long." Itachi nodded in response as he and Kisame began pumping more chakra into their feet, sending the branches they leapt from into spiraling debris. Naruto and Orochimaru. Naruto released a cry of pain as Orochimaru's foot slammed into the side of his skull, sending him stumbling backwards. With the boy off guard, the snake Sannin flipped through a series of hand signs, releasing multiple fireballs from his mouth. Naruto, seeing these coming, preformed his own jutsu, a mud wall that protected him from the intense heat. As the mud fell back down to the earth, Orochimaru dived towards the boy, only to receive a kick to his chest. Stumbling backwards slightly, it gave Naruto the perfect opening. Flipping through multiple hand sign, Naruto released a wind jutsu that sent the snake Sannin flying into a tree parallel to them. Orochimaru released a scream of both pain and rage as the tree broke, a large portion stabbing through his left arm. "You damnable pest. I'm going to enjoy cutting you open so much more than my other test subjects," the man called as he once again disappeared from the blonde's view. Naruto growled as he searched for any sight of the snake-eyed man. Suddenly, pain shot throughout his back. Heat rushed over him, his back boiling. With a scream of pain, Naruto rolled to the side, just before Orochimaru could complete his attack. The snake man released a sadistic chuckle of amusement as he watched the boy writhe in pain, his neck tensing as his rippled eyes screwed themselves shut. Lurching forwards, Orochimaru solidly planted his foot into the chest of his opponent, sending him flying backwards onto the ground, where pain became almost unbearable. Orochimaru stalked towards his prey, picking him up by his spiky blonde locks. "Are there any last words you wish to say?" Orochimaru questioned in his sadistic glee. "A few." Naruto spoke as a smirk suddenly shot over his features, though it was invisible to Orochimaru, whom glanced down at Naruto's back, his eyes widening as he found that armor implanted into the boy's vest had taken the brunt of his attack. "Got you, Shinra Tensei." Orochimaru was sent spiraling backwards into the forest, farther destroying it as trees broke in half, splintering away, small pieces impaling the snake-like man. Naruto panted as he watched the snake-like man finally land. The Sannin slowly picked himself up to his feet, though Naruto fell down, his Shinra Tensei having almost completely drained him of his energy. Damn it, I have enough energy for 2 more things. I had to time this perfectly. The blonde Rinnegan user released a grin as a snake slithered from the forest, wrapping its body around his own as quickly as it could. His snake-like opponent released a chuckle as he stood to his full height, traveling forwards. It's over now, brat. All of your fighting, all of the resistance, it was all for nothing. The man cackled as he withdrew a kunai from his pouch. The snake Sannin lowered himself to the ground where Naruto lay, placing the kunai to the boy's throat. It's over. Perfect. Naruto thought to himself as the man began to bring the kunai forwards through the last inch that had remained between the blade and his neck. Lightning current. Naruto called, channeling what chakra he could as lighting shot out of his body, quickly killing the snake that had coiled itself around him, and shot through Orochimaru's blade. The snake Sannin released a scream as the lightning shot through his metal blade, completely surrounding his body before launching him backwards. Panting, Naruto bit his thumb, allowing blood to flow, before flipping through multiple hand signs. Summon and Jutsu. Lifting his head, Orochimaru's eyes widened as they came to rest upon the man that now stood before him. Karen, you shouldn't have left him there. Do you know what could happen to him? Well, do you? The red-eyed girl questioned Naruto's human path, whom remained silent as he guarded the red head, keeping her from leaving the tower. And another thing, he said his name was Uzumaki. Uzumaki. I'm a distant relative to the Uzumaki clan. It's my duty to help one in need. Now get out of my way. I can't. I've been given my order, and therefore you will remain here until I receive orders otherwise. If you want to leave your room and wander around this tower, I will gladly accompany you. The black-haired male stated as the girl glared darkly at his bandaged eyes. How can you say that when he's out there fighting someone who, from his reaction, is stronger than him? I have faith, was the simple response that left Naruto's human path's mouth as he turned his back to the red-headed girl. Sand siblings. Gaara, are you okay? Temari questioned her younger brother warily as he stared at one of the paint-chipped walls of the tower they resided in, as he had since they had arrived. Gaara, talk to me. You haven't said a word. You didn't even take pleasure in killing those people in the forest. You aren't actually thinking about joining that Omegacure ninja, are you? I mean, there's just no way that he can make good on those promises he gave you. Gaara's head tilted as he stared at her from the corners of his eyes, Kankuro sweating as he watched this interaction. He said he could take Shukaku away. That I will be accepted in Omegacure, and protected instead of hated and attacked. He said that I could live, and find what I'm searching for. I looked in his eyes when he spoke those words to me. He did not lie. There was not a single trace of a lie in his eyes. Gaara returned as both Kankuro's and Temari's brows furrowed as they stared at the youngest sibling. Yeah, but, Gaara, Kankuro cut in quickly. Just because you say he told the truth, are you willing to put everything on the line? Throw away what so many have worked for. Gaara, please. Enough, Kankuro. The blonde, Naruto, he said that I would be accepted. He said if you came with me, you would both be accepted as well, and we could finally be a family. I believe him, Kankuro, Temari. If you come with me or not is an option that only you two can choose. After these exams, however, I am siding with the blonde-haired one, and following him back to Omegacure. The older of the sibling glanced towards each other before they opened their mouths to speak. They were, however, cut off by a green-haired, orange-eyed girl. Are you, Gaara? Team Samui. Yugito, are you okay? Karui questioned as she and her 2 fair-skinned comrades entered the Chunin exams tower. At these words, Samui glanced to Yugito out of the corner of her eyes, her usual stoic expression still placed upon her face. Yeah, you've been really distant since the blonde AIM ninja talked to us in the forest. Not cool, Yugito. The blonde glanced to her comrades out of the corners of her cat-like eyes. The blonde released a sigh of annoyance and sorrow. I don't know. All of my life Kumo has hated me for having Nibi sealed inside of me. Something I had no control over whatsoever. And here comes this. Blonde-haired Omegacure ninja with weird eyes telling me that I'll be accepted in AIM, and that they'll take Nibi away. And I'll live. I didn't sense him lying. And, I don't know what to do. The blonde spoke as she released a muted scream. Her comrades glanced to each other before placing supportive hands upon her shoulder. Listen, Yugito. Karui spoke with her eyebrows scrunched together. I get where you're coming from. I do. So, if you think that this aim ninja is your best way of getting a good life, then I can't blame you. I mean, Kumo has given you a pretty shitty hand at life. And besides, no matter where you are, you're still pretty cool, Yugito. Samui cut in. Yugito opened her mouth to reply, a smile upon her face, before a raspy dark voice cut out through the air. Ni Yugito? Itachi and Kisame. Hey, Itachi, do you feel that? Kisame questioned his Akatsuki partner as they continued speeding through the forest. Itachi nodded in response as he looked to his partner from the corner of his eyes. Hi. It seemed that Naruto has unleashed his Naraka path of sin. This is not good, we must move quicker. Naruto and Orochimaru. Before the snake-like man stood the intimidating form of the body of Madara Uchiha. The man's black hair was spiky, and reached all the way down to his waist with shoulder-length bangs framing the sides of his face, the left side hanging partially over his left eye. Speaking of his eyes, they were now the same purple-gray color of Orochimaru's opponent. However, there was a strange difference to them. The first ring around the ninja's pupils had changed into a swirled circle look, with 3 circles within the ring. Branching outwards were 2 lines at the top of the first ring, and 1 at the bottom. In all, it seemed as if the man held a biohazard sign branching out across of the ripples of the Rinnegan. The man wore a baggy black t-shirt that extended at the neck, coming to rest just below the man's lips. The shirt traveled downwards to be tucked into a pair of black Anbu-styled pants. The ankles of the man's pants were taped off. And for shoes the man wore a pair of black combat boots that traveled to his mid-shin. The samurai armor that had been used by ninja during his era had all been replaced by a crimson-red Anbu-styled armor that branched outwards in a similar way. Printed onto the back of the chest piece was a red, white-lined cloud. On his hands, the man wore a pair of black gauntlets that held spikes branching at the knuckles. Strapped to the back of the ninja's back was an orange battle fan. The man's purple rippled eyes glared down upon Orochimaru, the invisible flames of hell burning inside them. Orochimaru, I'd like you to meet my Naraka path. Naruto spoke tauntingly as he sat against one of the remaining trees that sat in the clearing he and his opponent had created, slowly regenerating his energy. Orochimaru's eyes shot from the face of Naruto's Naraka path to Naruto himself, rage filling his slitted eyes. How? His voice spat out, filled with rage and hate towards the young Omegakure ninja. Said blonde-haired young man released a laugh at the snake Sanin's expense as the reanimated corpse of Madara removed the fan from his back, his face completely void of emotions. Simple really. I know the man who had possession of the body. He was more than willing to lend it to me. Said it helped his image. Though his image is quite foolish compared to my Naraka paths. Naruto returned as the snake Sanin slithered to his feet, his eye burning with anger. The older ninja formed a hand seal, his cheeks bulging as his throat gagged. Opening his mouth, a sword quickly protruded, saliva covering its blade and handle. Naruto watched on with morbid fascination as the legendary blade of Kusangi was revealed to him. I'm not going to fall today, you brat. Orochimaru spoke to the blonde, whom only chuckled with amusement. Then, with a flick of his hand, the reanimated corpse of Madara lurched forwards, completely taking Orochimaru by surprise. The should-be-dead ninja slammed his knee into the gut of the snake Sanin. The force of the blow left Orochimaru staggering on his feet. With lightning-fast movements, Madara spun on his feet before kicking off into the air, his right foot slamming into the skull of the snake-like man. Orochimaru stumbled backwards from the blow before he lurched forwards, his sword poised to strike Naruto's Naraka path down. The stoic man dodged to the side, slamming his battle fan into the gut of his opponent. With a grunt of effort, Orochimaru was sent spiraling through the air, driving him into yet another tree. The man released a scream, though he was quick to rise back to his feet. Flipping through multiple hand signs, Orochimaru once again released multiple fireballs from his mouth, though they were quickly batted away by the path of Sin's battle fan. With one-handed hand seals, Madara sent his own set of fireballs at his opponent. The snake-like man avoided most of though the final ball of fire caught the snake Sanin's leg, scorching it to third-degree burns. The man released a scream of pain as his hand struck out, catching it burned leg. You son of a bitch! Orochimaru screamed at both Naruto and his Naraka path. With a chuckle, Naruto slowly lifted himself up the tree he had propped himself against, staring at the Kusangi blade that Orochimaru had pointed his way. No arguments there, Orochimaru. Naruto chuckled, further enraging the snake Sannin. He had pushed the boy to his utmost limits. Almost killed him multiple times. And now he treated him as a joke. The snake Sannin rushed forwards as Naruto smirked to himself. Just enough to power to make this work. I have to time this perfectly. Because I get no second chance. As the snake Sannin came closer to his target, brandishing his Kusangi, Naruto's Naraka path appeared in front of the man, swinging his battle fan upwards. The snake Sannin released a scream as he was sent rocketing upwards. As he began falling towards the ground, Naruto rolled in his direction, pointing his hands upwards to where the man sat. Shinra Tensai. Naruto cried as the invisible force slammed into Orochimaru, sending him flying upwards once again. Naruto's body staggered before he fell over backwards. Orochimaru's Kusangi, which he had lost grip of at Naruto's devastating attack, falling directly towards his chest. Before the blade could pierce him, however, the right hand of Madara's reanimated corpse shot out, grasping the hilt of the sword as he once again shouldered his battle fan. The black-haired Path of Sin turned on his heels to glare at the snake Sannin as he finally landed on the ground with an audible thud. His snake-like eyes widened at the sight of his sword being wielded in the hand of his enemy. The Naraka path swung elegant blade with expertise that Orochimaru could only dream of before he shot forwards. The snake-like man rolled away from his place on the ground, narrowly avoiding being decapitated by his own sword. As he found his footing, Orochimaru was forced to dodge and weave like a true snake as the reanimated corpse swung at him in an elegant dance. Jumping backwards and preforming a handspring, Orochimaru panted as he stared at his opponent, one of his eyes swelling shut where Madara's body had landed a shot on the side of his face with the hilt of the Kusangi sword. Naruto's Naraka path made to advance forwards again, though was stopped as two more males made themselves known in the clearing, Itachi and Kisame. Uchimaru's eyes widened at the sight of the Sharingan user and Samahata wielder. "We are sorry we're late, Naruto." Itachi spoke, though Naruto couldn't even nod his head. Naruto's Naraka path's eyes surveyed the area before he jumped backwards, holstering the Kusangi as he lifted Naruto's body off of the ground. Giving the two Akatsuki members a nod, the Path of Sin lurched off into the trees, carrying Naruto over his shoulder. Kisame glanced over at Orochimaru before releasing a laugh as he brought forth Samahata. "Given the workout by an Omega-Cure Genin, nay, Orochimaru? And he stole the Kusangi from you too. This fight is going to be too easy." Orochimaru snarled at the shark-like smile flashed at him. "No, not today. I know when to retreat." With these words, the man disappeared into the forest of death, Itachi's eyes narrowing. "Give chase. Leader Sama does not want him to get away." Itachi spoke before the Akatsuki partners shot out into the forest after the snake Sannin. Naruto. The ripple-eyed AIM ninja's Naraka path landed just before the Chunin Tower with an almost silent thump, Naruto's human and animal path already waiting outside. The two walked forwards, taking Naruto's arms over their shoulder as they carried him away. Glancing around the immediate area, Madara's reanimated corpse disappeared in a plume of smoke, much like he had arrived, leaving the animal and human paths to carry Naruto into the tower. Team Samui, Fu, and Sand siblings. "He has just entered." Gaara spoke slowly as his third eye dissolved into sand. "But he is not in good shape. It would be wise to leave him be for the time being." He relayed to those around him, all furrowing their eyebrows. Karen. The red-headed girl's red eyes snapped open as she felt the Rinnegan user's familiar warm aura signature. "He's back," she cried as she jumped to her feet, rushing from the room that Naruto's human path had confined her to. A groan resounded throughout Naruto's resting room as his eyes fluttered. As they finally opened, he released a short hiss as blinding lights reached his sight. Covering his sensitive pupils with his hands, allowing them adjusting the light. With another groan, the blonde-haired Omega-Cure ninja sat up, though he immediately fell back to his bed as he felt pain rush throughout him. "You're up!" A familiar voice reached his ears as red eyes came into view. Naruto's own rippled ones stared up at the girl he had saved in the forest, Karen, as she furrowed her brow at him. "You're still hurt." It comes with the job description. Naruto returned as he tried sitting up again, this time receiving help from the glasses-wearing girl. Thank you. The girl smiled in return, though her eyes carried a worried underlayer. Karen ran her hand over Naruto's shoulder, down to his back. As her hand found the fire-wounded skin, Naruto realized he was actually only donned in a pair of Anbu pants. The red-headed girl bit her bottom lip as she felt the wounded skin before she rolled her right sleeve upwards, Naruto's eyes going over the bite mark scars that traveled upwards. What are you? Bite me. The red-headed girl interrupted the young blonde-haired man, whom furrowed his brow. Bite her? Didn't she have enough scars traveling the length of her skin? What are you talking about? I'm not going to bite you. Naruto declined as Karen's eyes narrowed. Bringing her hand upwards, she grabbed the blonde's hair, moving his face close to her arm as Naruto's rippled eyes widened at the sudden movement, pain shooting throughout his back. I have healing abilities, trust me. Bite me. Rinnegan's eyes stared upwards at the red-haired girl's face, as he warily leaned forwards. Karen nodded to the young man as his lips met her skin before he opened his mouth, biting down. Almost immediately, a warm sensation began flowing throughout the boy's body, his pain lessening minute by minute. Karen released an almost silent moan as the blonde-headed Uzumaki allowed her to help him, her hand stroking through the young man's soft hair. Without warning, the blonde released his hold on her arm, sitting back up as relief flooded throughout his back. The red-eyed girl sported a reddening blush as she looked away from the blonde-haired AIM ninja as he slid from his resting place in his bed. He quickly slipped on a high-collared t-shirt before the kunoichi grabbed his arm, in the process gaining his attention. There were a few people looking for you earlier. The other two you were with wouldn't let them through, so I told them I'd bring you to them. The blonde-haired ninja nodded in response as he motioned for her to lead the way, though she remained latched to his arm as she led him from the room. Team Samui, Fu, Sand siblings. Silence reigned between the 7 people that resided in single room, each glaring at the others warily. Gaara, how much longer are we going to hang around these guys? Kami knows why you actually trust this AIM ninja, but is it really worth waiting? Kankuro questioned his younger red-headed brother, whom glared at him from the corners of his eyes. The glare was joined by those of the others in the room as Karui snarled towards the young man. We're not guys, dipshit. The dark-skinned woman spat as Kankuro held his hands up in forfeit. Fucking pig. With a huff, the redhead's attention was drawn to the door of the room as a red-eyed girl they had all met earlier, Karen, poked her head through. She glanced back out of the door, grabbing someone's arm before dragging them into the room. The person whom the arm belonged to was the blonde that they all had been waiting for, decked in a plain black outfit opposed to the clothes he had worn upon their last encounter. There's the blonde, Karui called as she pointed to the new arrivals, drawing everyone's attention to them. The blonde nodded as he made a head count of everyone within the room, Karen glaring at the assembled women within the room, from her perch on Naruto's side. I'm glad to see you all made it. Gaara, Fu, Yugito. The blonde spoke as the 3 spoken Jinchuriki nodded their heads in response to the blonde-haired AIM ninja. I want to get to the point as quickly as possible. This place isn't the ideal place for a get-together. Nevertheless, this may be the only time I can get you together. Therefore, ask your questions, and I will answer them. You said that you wish to extract the Biju. Gaara spoke as Naruto's attention turned to him. You said that I will be accepted in your village. That, if my siblings come along, they too will be accepted into a megacure. I wish for you to elaborate on all of this. Naruto nodded at the boy's raspy voice and opened his mouth to respond, before he was quickly cut off by Yugito. Wait, we can bring people with us? Then, could I bring Karui and Samui if I joined you? Naruto's rippled eyes glanced to her from the corners of them before he nodded slowly, once again opening his mouth to respond to the questions. In order. Yes, we wish to extract all 9 Biju from the Jinchuriki. We are not prone to using lethal force, however, I choose having the Biju as well as former containers who have retained a small amount of the Biju's chakra, in most cases. We have the ability to keep the containers alive through the process of the extraction, as long as they remain prone as we have medical ninjas constantly by their sides. If they struggle, well, there's nothing we can do for them. You will indeed be accepted into our village, as heroes for helping push AIM into the New World Order. And as such, your siblings being associated with you, will be treated with the utmost respect. And yes, Yugito, you may bring people along with you. If Karui and Samui join you, they too will be treated with the highest amount of respect. Are there any other questions? Naruto asked as he looked around the room at the assembled face, Yugito's eyes pleading with her friends. Quickly, Kankuro's painted face stepped forwards. Yeah, Gaara says you aren't lying about what you're saying. But how do we know that you're not gonna stab us in the back, huh? Kankuro questioned as Naruto released an amused chuckle. He had figured that at least one would step forwards, questioning the legitimacy of his offer. You do not know, and cannot. All I can give you to ease any paranoia is my word. If it helps anymore. At these words, Naruto withdrew a kunai, everyone, but Fu's brow furrowing as he handed it to the Sanagakure puppeteer. Taking his arm from Karen's grasp, Naruto turned on his heels as he outstretched his arms, his back turned to them all. I place my faith in you, and, hopefully, in turn, you place your faith in me. Kankuro growled as he walked forwards, brandishing the kunai high into the air before he stopped with a sigh. Naruto turned back to them as he was handed his kunai. Fine, I believe you. Kinda. So what do you want us to do? Obviously you don't want Gaara, Temari, and me to go along with Orochimaru's plans. So what is it exactly that you want us all to do? The Suna puppeteer as they all turned their attention back to him. Well, that's simple really, Kankuro. You see, you're all going to pass your exams, and when the invasion begins. 2 days later, Naruto sighed as he stood upon one of the balconies that resided in the tower that all of the genin had assembled in, now donning his scorched outfit. Beside of him were his two paths as well as Fu and Karen, whom could not pass due to them losing their teammates in the forest. Upon the end of the second exams, it was revealed, by a Konoha ninja named Hayate Gecko to the genin that there were too many combatants remaining and preliminaries would have to be held to narrow them all down. That's bullshit, Naruto thought to himself as he glanced to the computer screen that would show the combatants that needed to step forwards. The last exams held in AIM were twice as many. Their damn Hokage just wants to make us dance like his little puppets. Finally, the letters on the computer screen began flashing. And then, two names stuck. Karui versus Hinata Hyuga. The dark-skinned, red-headed girl released a grin as she leapt over the railing that kept the combatants on the balconies. Right of the bat, huh? She questioned the proctor as her opponent, a timid blue-haired, Byakugan-wielding girl. The Hyuga came to stand across from Karui, her fingers pressing together as the proctor lifted his hand high into the air. I want a fair fight. No interferences and try avoiding being maimed. All abilities within your arsenal are acceptable to be used. The sickly-looking Konoha ninja spoke before swiftly bringing his hand down. Hajime. With those words, Karui lurched forwards between the gap that separated her from the Hyuga, slamming her foot into the girl's gut. Said girl released a scream of pain as her red-headed opponent spun on the sole of her left foot, lashing out with her width. The vicious kick connected with the side of the blue-haired girl's skull, sending her rolling backwards. The girl slowly tried to pick herself up as Karui charged forwards once again, lashing out with her left foot. Her opponent quickly pulled her head back out of reflex, just barely avoiding a kick that would have broken bones. Quickly lashing out, Hinata swept the red-headed girl's legs out from under her, though the Kumo Kunoichi preformed a handspring, landing in a crouched position. Not good enough, Byakugan girl. Karui warned as Hinata's eyes widened. Reaching over her shoulder, Karui withdrew her sword, her eyes narrowing. All weapons and techniques are available. Now bring it, Hyuga bitch. Hinata unconsciously stepped backwards before her red-headed opponent rushed forwards, swinging her sword in a beautiful dace of motions. Hinata jumped backwards, just barely avoiding having her skull unattached from the rest of her boy. Dodging the sword another time, Hinata quickly evaded any further onslaught by rushing to the other side of the arena. Come on, Hinata, you can do it. Nami called from the balcony she stood on, cheering on her friend. Hinata looked upwards, shocked by the sudden encouragement, before nodding her head, a determined look coming to her face. Forming a single hand seal, the veins around Hinata's eyes began bulging before she snapped her eyes open. Byakugan, she called as Karui's and all of those within the room's chakra systems became apparent to her. Karui released an amused laugh as she wasted no more time rushing back towards her opponent, said opposing girl doing the same. The dark-skinned Kumo Kunoichi pulled backwards as Hinata launched forwards, trying to initiate her Kekkei Genkai technique. Seeing the girl stumble forwards, obviously unprepared at being dodged, Karui spun of heel, slamming the butt of her swords into the side of her opponent's skull. Said Byakugan wielder stumbled to the side. As she tried to regain her bearings, Karui lurched forwards once again, slamming her elbow into Hinata's face. As the girl's head lolled backwards from the blow, her dark-skinned opponent kicked herself into the air, her right foot planting itself into the girl's chest. Hinata released a scream of pain as the blow knocked her backwards. As her Kumogakure opponent came at her again, the blue-haired girl jumped forwards, finally initiating her gentle fist strikes. Karui released a short shout as Hinata went through the practiced attack, closing off all of Karui's chakra pathways. As the final blow was delivered to her body, Karui was sent flying backward. Hinata continued to stand, her Byakugan form still timid, even through what little confidence her friend had given her. Karui slowly picked herself up with a snarl as she glared at the girl. Being adept in taijutsu and kenjutsu, the red-headed girl didn't need her ninjutsu. However, she knew of the Byakugan's 360-degree vision that the eyes gave them. It had been one of the reasons that Kumogakure had tried to acquire it so many years ago. And as such, she knew she would be hard-pressed to land a strike on the girl now. Naruto glared at his sister across from the balconies. No matter what she did, she constantly grated his nerves away. But seeing her give her friend confidence, had given him a sneaky and underhanded idea. But if Yugito brings her along, this can be justified as helping a new comrade out. Naruto reasoned with himself as he called out the same words his uncle had spoke to him, down to Karui. The Byakugan is said to have 360 degrees of vision. That's not correct. They have one blonde spot, the third thoracic vertebra. Karui glanced up at the blonde-haired AIM ninja, her eyes widening before she nodded with a smirk. Neji Hyuga's own Byakugan eyes traveled to Naruto, narrowed in rage and suspicion. How would he know the blind spot in the Hyuga's Byakugan? That's a closely guarded secret. And I'm torn between hating him for knowing it, and giving it out to my possible enemies, and thanking him for giving someone the chance to wipe that main house scum from this plane of existence. As he thought this, Nami's own thoughts collided in her mind. She truly believed this to be her brother, and he had just given away a Hyuga secret to a Kunoichi from a different village, so that she may defeat Hinata, one of Nami's closest friends. Meanwhile, down in the arena, Hinata lurched forwards, intent on finishing the battle now that her opponent knew her blind spot. Karui, seeing this, began flying backwards, avoiding each and every one of Hinata's blows as quickly as she possibly could. Ducking down, Karui took Hinata's right leg out from underneath her before jumping high into the air. The blue-haired Byakugan wielder's eyes widened as she gained her bearing, finding that Karui had used the AIM ninja's information. As she rushed to spin around, Karui's foot slammed into her neck, sending Hinata to the ground. The Byakugan wielder tried to jump back to her feet, however, it was in vain. "It's over, Proctor, call the match." The sickly man nodded in acceptance as he released a drawn-out cough in his hand. "Winner. Karui of Kumogakure." Karui smiled as she leapt back to her place on the balconies, just as the medical ninjas lead Hinata away from the arena floor, to the medical wing of the Chunin Tower. "Congratulations, Karui." The girl's teammates spoke as she nodded happily, all turning their attention forwards as the computer screen. It continued on for a few seconds before finally coming to a stop. Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akado. It was a rather uneventful fight with Yoroi sucking the last Uchiha of Konoha's chakra from him. After realizing this, the Uchiha used a taijutsu move he created after copying the initial beginning from a fellow comrade's move set to defeat Akado, before being led away by his sensei, Kakashi Hitaki. While Konoha seemed proud of this victory, the other village's ninja within the room found it to be less than satisfactory. Samui vs Masumi Tsurugi. Samui jumped down to the arena floor as her opponent did the same, though with a slight grunt. "Don't take me as a pushover like Yoroi. I'm not so easily beat, and I won't take it easy on you like he did the Uchiha. As a matter of fact, you truthfully have no chance in beating me. You should just give up." Samui's face remained stoic before she opened her mouth to speak to the man. You judge me without knowing my skill, believing yourself to be better for no apparent reason. Not cool. And because of that, I won't take it easy on you." At these words, the proctor, Hayate, stepped between them all before raising his hand high into the air. With a slight cough, he observed the two ninja before bringing his arm downwards. Match number 3, Hajime. Without warning, the man lurched forwards, attempting to wrap his limbs around his blonde-haired opponent, whom jumped backwards in response. Her eyes glared towards him as she immediately found his ability, rubber-like limbs. She could easily take care of that. The beautiful fair-skinned young woman removed her tanto from its sheath, swinging it as her opponent quickly made his way towards her. Ducking under his arms, Samui brought her tanto upwards, slicing the side of the man's body and allowing blood to immediately flow from the wound. Smirking at having drawn first blood so quickly, Samui jumped away from her opponent as he snarled at the wound. Masumi was quick to attack again as he rushed forwards. As Samui jumped forwards to slice the man again, he fell forwards, placing his hands onto the ground before hand-springing upwards, slamming his feet into her face. Samui released a small shout as Masumi smirked, reaching forwards and anticipating to end the match. He screamed in agony, however, as Samui's tanto sliced through his right wrist, severing his hand from the rest of his arm. The man stumbled backwards in pain, though Hayate was not to intervene unless the opponent was incapacitated, forfeited, or was dead. Samui jumped forwards, striking out with her right leg and delivered a devastating kick to her opponent's skull. The man fell down to one knee, Samui quickly rushing forwards. Seeing this, Masumi struck out with his left hand to catch the woman, though she spun on her heels, just barely missing his hold, before bringing her tanto down upon the man's remaining hand. He released another scream of agony as he fell to the floor, writhing in pain. Seeing this, Hayate stepped forwards, raising his hand into the air. "Winner. No, I'm not done yet," Masumi cried to the proctor as he struggled to get to his feet. Through all of this, Samui's face remained stoic. And it continued to do so as Masumi struck out with his right leg. It even remained stoic as the man's foot was severed from the ankle downwards, sending it to join the man's other lost appendages on the arena's floor. Groaning at the man's stupidity, Hayate motioned for medical ninjas to come pick the man up. "Winner. Samui of Kumogakure." He called to the balconies as, like Karui, Samui returned to her place among her comrades, her eyes unconsciously wandering to the blonde-headed boy that leaned against the walls of the tower, Karen's red-headed form clinging heavily to his arm. Taking her eyes away from them, she glanced to the Chunin exam computer, just as it flashed the next two combatants. Neji Hyuga vs Kankuro. The two ninjas slowly made their way down to the arena's floor, their faces stoic as they stared at each other. "Fate has declared me the winner of this bout." The Hyuga male spoke as Kankuro sneered in his direction, obviously hating the fact that he was being talked down to. "Yeah? Well, me and everyone in this room know about your little blind spot now. What are you going to do to stop me from using it?" Kankuro questioned the white-eyed boy who simply retained his arrogant smirk upon his face. Without another word, Hayate allowed his hand to fall downwards, signaling the beginning of the fourth match. Immediately, Neji allowed his eyes to transform, just as Hinata had. Kankuro glared in the Hyuga's direction as he cracked his neck. With a conceited glance, Neji allowed his stance to stop. "You can come out. I know you switched places with your puppet. You're on its back right now." No response was made, Neji's brow furrowing in slight annoyance. "Fine, have it your way. But fate remains the same either way." With that, the Hyuga lurched forwards, immediately beginning an intense onslaught on the Kankuro he had called a puppet. His body moved backwards as the force of the blows chipped away at the body, revealing it to be the puppet as Neji shattered its face. As the puppet landed, the true Kankuro quickly unraveled himself from the bandages he had hidden himself in. Glancing towards his puppet, Kankuro's arm shot out, though pain shot throughout him as Neji's hand slammed into the young man's hand. Immediately, the appendage went limp as Neji began a violent and unneeded onslaught on the Sanagakure puppeteer, ending with a vicious uppercut that sent Kankuro skidding yards away from his opponent. "You may as well call the match proctor. He's finished." Hayate sent a sideways glance to Kankuro, whom struggled with himself to stand up. Finally, Kankuro resigned to his fate, allowing himself to fall to the ground as medical ninja rushed to his location. Winner. Neji. Hayate called out as Neji slowly made his way back to his teammates, who both congratulated him, though he brushed them both off as he watched the computer with cold and calculating eyes. Shikamaru Nara vs Kin. Much like the Uchiha's match, this particular one wasn't anything special. The Otogakure Kunoichi tried to use her sound genjutsu to defeat the genius Nara, though he planned ahead. Tricking her into a position where it benefited him, Shikamaru placed her in his shadow bind technique, sending her skull crashing into the wall behind her and, ultimately, knocking her unconscious. With a barely drawn-out, troublesome, the lazy genius made his way back to the balconies, the computer already flashing for the next combatants. Aim S. Sora vs Kiba. Yahoo! You see that, Akamaru? Kiba questioned his canine companion as he leapt over the railing of the balcony he stood upon. Easy win, right buddy? The small puppy barked its agreement. The reanimated corpse of Sora slowly picked itself up before walking down to the arena. The proctor looked between the two, waiting for any trash talk to occur between them. There was none. With a shrug, Hayate lifted his hand high into the air before bringing it down. Match number 6, Hajime. With those words, he jumped backwards. Immediately, Kiba fed Akamaru a food pill. The puppy's fur changed from white to brown in an instant as Kiba dropped himself into his taijutsu stance. Through this, Naruto's animal path had remained silent, though he jumped forwards to his opponent quickly. Acting upon instinct, Kiba rolled to the side, attempting to escape the wrath of his opponent. Before he could completely regain his footing, the body of Sora slammed into Kiba's back, sending him rolling forwards. Akamaru lurched forwards to come to the aid of his master, however, he was quickly sidestepped. Jumping forwards, the animal path preformed a handspring, using all of his might to force himself upwards, slamming his knee into Kiba's gut. Kiba released a grunt as he stumbled backwards. Quickly gaining his bearings, Kiba swung at the body of Sora, which dodged backwards before ramming his elbow straight into the dog-like boy's face. Kiba released a howl of pain as he fell backwards, clutching his face. Kicking off of the ground, Sora landed a vicious kick to the side of Kiba's skull, the boy stumbling to the side. As Sora went to move forwards again, though Akamaru attacked his ankles, forcing him to fight the dog off quickly. Atta boy, Akamaru. Let's finish this quickly. Kiba was cut off as Sora removed his tri-bladed death claw, before releasing a large gash of wind. Kiba's eyes widened as he tried to dodge the attack, though was still blasted backwards by its power. Sora rushed forwards quickly, kicking off into the air before releasing another blast. Though able to dodge the initial attack, Sora's foot slammed into Kiba's face, sending him stumbling backwards. With a growl, Kiba lurched forwards, striking Naruto's animal path in his chest. With as much rage as he could muster, Kiba released an onslaught of strikes from his clawed hands. Sora stumbled backwards, surprised from the sudden outburst. Jumping into the air, Kiba kicked off of Sora's chest, moving into a back flip before landing in a crouched position. It was a fatal mistake. Without warning, Sora kicked Akamaru aside, lurching forwards and slamming the sole of his foot into Kiba's face, with a sickening crunch as his nose broke. "Ah, you Kami damned bastard. Akamaru, now. Man-beast technique, fang over fang." Kiba cried as he and his animal companion began twirling around each other in a dangerous technique. Jumping backwards, Sora released another gust from his tree-bladed death claws, sending Akamaru flying into a wall, unconscious. Ducking down, Kiba was forced to fly right over Sora as he ducked down, sliding underneath the jutsu. As Kiba stumbled to move back into his taijutsu stance, the canine-like boy found Naruto's animal path's favored weapon at his throat. His eyes widening, Kiba lifted his hands into the air, announcing his defeat as Hayate nodded, stepping forwards. Winner. S of a Megacure. The proctor announced as he jumped to the balconies. The medical ninjas led the boy away from the arena, to make sure he didn't receive any serious injuries, though it was unlikely. Tamari vs Tenten. The match truthfully lasted all of a minute, Tenten being completely outmatched by Tamari as the blonde-haired Sanagakure ninja blew her weapons away before completely decimating her fellow kunoichi. As the match was announced in Tamari's favor, the blonde allowing Tenten to fall on her battle fan, followed by her teammate, Rock Lee, declaring how unyouthful the whole thing was. Ni Yugito vs Shino. Yugito leapt to the floor as Shino furrowed his brow, a frown adorning his features. There was something about the girl that made his bugs wary. They buzzed, refusing to come forth and battle his named opponent. With a shake of his head, and a disappointed sigh, Shino lifted his hand into the air, drawing Hayate's attention to him. My Kikai bugs refuse to battle her. I have no choice but to forfeit this battle and try again the next. Hayate nodded as he announced Yugito as the winner, though the Jinchuriki snarled, shooting a dark glance at the Aburame that refused to allow her to vent her frustrations out on him. The blonde-haired young woman stalked back to the balconies, though she was intercepted by a familiar ripple-eyed blonde. Her fellow blonde leaned down into the blonde-haired Kumo Kunoichi's ear before whispering, "Easy there, kitty cat, you'll get your chance to rip plenty of people's throats out during the finals." The blonde blushed, both from the closeness and the nickname. As the blonde turned away, Yugito quickly followed behind him as Fu and Karen rejoined Naruto's sides, grasping to his arms almost desperately as he looked down at them, brow furrowing. Eye of Aim vs Zaku. Zaku quickly made his way down to the arena, his arms in slings, as Naruto's human path grasped the railing of the balconies. The blindfolded path of Sin flipped into the air, holding himself balanced on the rail before he fell to the ground in a crouched state, the bottom part of stoic. Looking between the two, Hayate released a fit of coughs as he dropped his hand, signaling the beginning of the match. Zaku stared ahead at Izuna's reanimated body as he slowly lifted himself off of the ground. "Well?" Zaku questioned as he lost his patience. "Are you going to fight me, or not?" Izuna tilted his head before he appeared before Zaku. Said child's smirk dropped as Izuna's foot slammed into his chest, sending him into the wall behind them. As Zaku moved to bring himself up, Izuna's right foot slammed into his opponent's gut before he lurched upwards, slamming his left into the boy's jaw. Zaku released a cry as he fell to the ground. As he stumbled to his feet, his right arm was yanked from his sling violently with a sickening crack. Zaku released a cry of pain before freeing his left hand, pointing it to his black-headed opponent. "Die, you bastard." Agony shot throughout the arm, however, as Izuna's right hand unsheathed his sword, slicing at his opponent's arm off from the elbow down. As his bleeding opponent stumbled backwards, pain shooting throughout him, he screamed again as his other arm was severed at the shoulder, leaving him completely useless. "Medic! Get a medic!" Hayate called as the medical team rushed the arena floor, taking the young Otogakure ninja and his severed limbs back to the medical ward. Glancing around at the bloodied floor, Naruto's human path disappeared, quickly reappearing beside of Naruto, who now sat, cross-legged with Karen clinging to his left arm, Fu sitting on his left side and Yugito staring down at the back of his head with a furrowed brow. Glancing upwards, Naruto couldn't help but groan out loud at the names of the combatants that the computer chose to fight against each other. Sakura vs Ino. What the fuck was the one question that ran through everyone's minds as they watched the pathetic match. It consisted of about 30 minutes of the blonde Yamanaka and pink-haired Haruno screaming back and forth between each other, resulting in the Mind Walker to cut her hair, much like her pink-cat comrade had. And when the battle finally began, it was disappointing to say the least. Starting off with basic illusion of clones, followed by Ino trying to take over her former friend's mind to make her forfeit. However, after some kind words from Nami, something that annoyed Naruto to no end, Sakura fought out. The battle culminated with the two rushing each other and knocking the other out with solid punches to their jaws. A draw. Nami vs Choji. The names flashed across the computer screen as the last two combatants were taken from the arena floor. Naruto sighed with annoyance. His chance at revenge would continue to prolong itself, it seemed. Nami jumped to the ground, followed by Choji, who screamed something about BBQ. In the end, it was a short match with Choji using his boulder spin technique and Nami dodging to the side multiple times, leading the young man to crash into one of the walls, effectively knocking him unconscious. Nami cheered slightly as the Yondaime Hokage clapped from the perch he had sat the entire exams, watching the proceedings. God, what the hell is wrong with these Konoha ninjas? Naruto questioned as the Konoha Junin glanced to the blonde AIM ninja, their eyes narrowing at the sight of not only his comrades, but the Suna team, Kumo team, the surviving Kusa girl, and surviving Taki ninja, surrounding him. The Kusa ninja had made herself completely comfortable at the young man's side, occasionally sneaking her hand through his blonde locks, while the Taki kunoichi sat beside of him, her eyes traveling to him every so often. Sabaku no Gara vs Dosu. The two mentioned ninja quickly made themselves known in the arena, Gara's gaze emotionless and Dosu glaring across of the arena at him. Otto has lost a lot of face here today. I'm going to have to beat you to get it all back. Dosu warned his opponent, who only remained emotionless as he stared back at Dosu. As their match was signaled to begin, Dosu lurched forwards, intent on punching his opponent, though Sand shot up, stopping the attack. Gaara's opponent went to release his sound jutsu from his arm, however, the redhead's Sand quickly encased Dosu. Hey, what the hell? Let me go, you son of a. Sand coffin. Dosu screamed in agony as the sand caved in around his body, and then, nothing. Blood splattered throughout the arena, pieces of Dosu's body falling down to those in the balconies, most giving out sounds of disgust at the gruesome display. Gaara glared to where his opponent had once stood before he disappeared in a swirl of sand, reappearing beside of Naruto, drawing everyone's attention to him. There were only two names that had yet to be called. Will N of AIM and Rock Lee come down to the arena? Hayate questioned as he coughed, glancing around at the gruesome scene before him with obvious disgust. Lee leapt from the balconies as Naruto slowly made his way down. Rock Lee, if I remember right from that Kabuto guy, you have no chakra, therefore can only use taijutsu. I'll make you a challenge, Lee. I won't use any jutsu, just taijutsu. For the obvious reasons that I don't want anyone to know the full extent of my abilities, and to make this a bit more fun for me. Yosh, what a youthful challenge, my AIM friend. But you must know that I am a taijutsu master. Yosh, nevertheless, if I do not win this, I will do 50 laps around Konoha, 2000. Lee was quickly cut off by Hayate, who feared him going into a made a guy rant. Yeah, final match of the preliminaries, Hajime. The two ninjas stared at each other before Rock Lee lurched forwards, kicking outwards with his right leg. Naruto ducked underneath the kick, swiping Lee's leg out from underneath him. Landing on his hands, Lee sprung away. As he came to stand up once again, Naruto's foot crashed into Lee's face, sending him stumbling backwards. As Naruto jumped forwards, Lee ducked underneath him before kicking upwards, slamming his foot into Naruto's chin. Naruto stumbled backwards before spinning on his left heel, kicking Lee in his side. The bushy-eyed teenager was sent flying away, rebounding off of the ground as quickly as he hit it. Lee gasped in pain as Naruto jammed his knee into Lee's stomach. Lee took a swing at Naruto, though the blonde ducked underneath him. Wrapping his arm around Lee's neck, his back pressed into Lee's own, Naruto dropped down onto his knees, Lee rebounding off of the boy's back as he writhed in pain. Seeing this, Naruto leapt into the air, bringing his knee down upon Lee's face. Lee released a scream of pain as he rolled away before picking himself up. As Naruto ran towards him, Lee ducked underneath a wild swing. As Naruto turned back to his big-eyed opponent, he received a swift and powerful kick to his jaw. Naruto swayed on his feet for a moment as Lee lurched forwards. The green-clad ninja slammed his knee into Naruto's gut. Spinning on the soles of his feet, Lee struck outwards, landing a vicious kick to the side of Naruto's skull, sending him down to one knee. Jumping off of both feet, the soles of Lee's shoes slammed into Naruto's skull, sending him skidding backwards. Quickly back on his feet, Lee rushed forwards at Naruto. Said blonde lurched from his resting spot, spearing Lee's midsection, sending him into the concrete. As the Yondaime Hokage watched this, his eyes narrowing. Could that really be him? Nami was right, he looks like me and Kushina. And his eyes look like what Kushina described. I don't know. Is he? Lee released a cry of pain as Naruto punted him in the skull. As the bull-headed boy's head fell to the pavement, slobber fell from his mouth. Hayate went to call the match, but Lee was quick to his feet. Spinning on them, Lee lashed out, kicking Naruto in the front of his face. Lee used the force, spinning in a front flip before kicking Naruto in the face from mid-air, sending the blonde stumbling. Lee quickly rushed forwards, kicking off of Naruto's chest, preforming another front flip. However, acting quickly, Naruto jumped into the air, wrapping his hands around the back of the man's skull, bringing Lee's face down onto his knees. Lee rebounded off of Naruto's knees, stumbling to his feet. Lurching from the ground, Naruto wrapped his arms around Lee's head again, this time bringing the boy down to crash onto his shoulder. The big-eyed boy rolled away, unconscious, as Naruto back up, almost as if to punt the green-clad ninja in the skull again. That's enough, Hayate spoke. Winner, N of Omegacure. The remaining contestants, please line up. Now that the preliminaries are finished, I will have you draw numbers. Based on the numbers, such as 1 with 2, you will have your opponents at the finals in 1 month's time. Any questions? No, good, pick you numbers.